Here with Jonathan Azaziah. I probably fucked your name up.
You didn't. You nailed it.
You were back during our episode with Goyim United, which people loved. You know so much about the topics we're going to discuss today. You know, ideally, we're going to put this on YouTube, so we're going to have to be a little careful with our wording, but you can just pretty much say what you want. We can bleep a few things. We're going to go deep into Chabad Lubavitch today.
No doubt.
Of everyone I've talked to, you have the most knowledge of them. You seem to have a deep knowledge, and I don't. But the reason is I can't really get any good information on them. They're clearly this powerful organization that has insane amounts of power. Not just America, world leaders from all over go and meet with them. They don't like the Goyim.
At all.
But we're going to hit a lot of different angles. But let's just start the history. Like, where do they start?
Yeah, Achi, if we're going to begin from 0 point, we have to start with the founder. And that is Shnoya Zalman of Liadi. And Chabad began as a Hasidic, which is the quote-unquote mystical Jewish tradition. And we'll break that down a bit maybe later on. It's not so mystical. It's more like, it's a lot more satanic.
Not surprising.
Yeah, mystical's a code word. And they drew their inspiration from this rather vile rabbi who's known universally as the Baal Shem Tov. And he has very famous encounters where he consorts and consults with demons, devils, and even Satan himself. And what world history attempts to do is they deflect from it and they say, these stories are allegorical. But if you do...
This is the founder.
This is the founder. And from that point, he had many a disciple, including the founder of Chabad, Shnoya Zalman of Liadi. So he was well versed in Talmud, Torah, Kabbalah. But where the danger begins is that he was obsessed with settling the land of Palestine, obsessed with it. And he founded an organization called Chabad Kollel, which is the longest continuously operating entity in Palestine. It began in 1788.
Wow.
So people who are semi-well-versed.
This is long before the
Theodore Herzl.
Yeah, long before that.
Long before. We're talking over a century before.
Crazy, I haven't heard this.
Before Der Judenstaat, Theodore Herzl's famous book where he laid out the parameters of a so-called...
Intentionally don't credit Chabad with this.
Intentionally. And I mean, truth be told, we could take it back even further than that, but I think that's another topic for another time.
Yeah, I think for this, we'll have to do a second podcast. I think people are going to like this one, so we'll go back further next time.
Inshallah. And this organization was getting so much money from Shnoya Zalman and this nascent Chabad organization that the Tsar of Russia actually arrested him because they thought he was an Ottoman spy.
Wow.
Because at the time, of course, Palestine was controlled by the Ottoman Empire. So the Russians, who had a historical rivalry with the Ottomans, they thought that he was running intel, even running weapons back and forth to the Ottomans. Of course, he wasn't. He was transporting money and all types of Judaica, which are materials, to these settlers in Palestine who were beginning to lay what the Jews have come to call facts on the ground, or settlements. So before there was any secular settlement in Palestine, you had Chabad building these colonies, and that would become their base.
That's wild, because that's, like you said, more than 100 years before Theodore Herzl, which that's what we're taught at the beginning of Zionism.
Yeah.
That's the atheists that were pushing it.
Yeah.
So these guys had it planned way before.
No, it's so true. And above and beyond that, because of the fact that they had this deep-rooted commitment, you have to ask yourself the question, if they weren't secularists, if they weren't atheists, and then of course you have the kibbutzes that came after that, which were generally socialist-driven, what was motivating them? And of course the answer is Judaism. And Chabad, they originated within what we would call the Pale of Settlement, which was this Jewish hotbed smack dab in the middle of Russia and these border regions that now have been broken up into Russia, Ukraine, Belarus, and Poland.
Yeah.
And they were all quote unquote religious fanatics. These were people that were studying Torah, Talmud, and Kabbalah so much that they would go blind.
Wow.
And that remains true to this very day. The Orthodox Jews are 3 times more likely to go nearsighted than any Gentile
Really?
on planet Earth. Yep, and it's from the Talmud study. But this is where things start to get even darker and even more despicable. They then took their own book that came from Shnoya Zalman of Liadi. He wrote a text called the Tanya, and this was, you could call it an exegesis on the exegesis, a commentary on the commentary. And he would give his own interpretation of the Talmud, of what the Jews call the Torah, of the Kabbalah. And this book was rooted in the filthiest and most deplorable manifestations of supremacism, to the point where he would write that the whole of creation, I want everybody to think about that. We're all human beings, different creeds, different colors, blase, 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 blah. Good and bad in all types of people, right?
Yes.
And yet, this individual wrote that the whole of creation was created for the sole purpose of serving the Jews.
Wow.
And even went as far as to say that the souls of Gentiles come from the satanic realm, whereas the souls of Jews come from the so-called heavenly realm, and that the differences between Jews and Gentiles are so stark that it would be the same as comparing one species of animal to another, a particular species of animal to an insect. A lot of people credit this to Menachem Mendel Schneerson, who a lot of Jews consider...
Yeah, I thought that was from Schneerson. That's what I'd heard.
Exactly.
I remember reading that like a year ago, and I was disgusted. Like, why does every leader in the world, not just America, go and bow before these guys who doesn't think I'm human, that my soul is a disgusting cattle animal?
Yep.
But it was before him.
It was even before him. So it was Schneerson who was merely regurgitating the slime that was written by Shnoya Zalman. And this tradition, of course, was passed on. And then Chabad began to spread, like a cancer, if you would, all over the world. First it started in Europe. And then, as they began to be the central go-between for Jews who were following a lot of secular traditions, like communism, for example.
Yeah.
Right? No one can dispute that communism was very much Judaic. It was admitted in the Jewish century by Yuri Skelzin. If you haven't read that book, take the time to read it. The Jewish Century.
Okay.
There's so much subversion. It's presented from a pro-Jewish perspective.
It's interesting, their own words, when you read these books, how they'll say it with their own words.
It's so true. And, you know, there was a story a few years ago. It came from the quote-unquote anti-Zionist Jewish website, Mondo Weiss. The founder, Philip Weiss, who's admittedly, he views Jews as superior to Gentiles, right? Naturally. So everybody think about that every time you hear the phrase anti-Zionist Jew. Number one, they're not anti-Zionist for real, because they don't believe in the death of the Zionist entity. And number two, they're still very much Jewish supremacists.
Well, how about the anti-Zionists that live in Palestine? It's like, how can you be anti-Zionist and live in Palestine, then leave and give the land back to the Palestinians?
Exactly. And I'm so happy that you brought that up, because again, this is where things start to get really murky and labyrinthian and interconnected, because we're presented this image by the anti-Zionist Jews, the quote-unquote true Torah Jews, who aren't Torah Jews at all. Because, I mean, I would argue from the Islamic perspective, and I don't want to distract too much from that, but I think it's also a matter of logic. You read the stories in the Old Testament, and you see these horrible things that these so-called prophets are doing.
Yeah.
And you can only come to two logical deductions. Number one, these are the most horrible people to ever exist. Or, number two, the Jews are lying through their teeth about what they did. That's the Islamic perspective. We believe that prophets are pure, righteous, they don't sin, and they definitely don't rape their own kids, and they definitely don't commit genocide.
Yeah, I know, that's sick. And the Old Testament has that all in it.
All in it. And then, of course, the rabbis take these demented stories in the Old Testament, they take them even further. So I would argue against the whole framework in general of them being true Torah Jews, but we'll leave that aside for the moment. Fact of the matter is that all of these Jews, my dear brother, they're all congregated in certain areas in New York, like Borough Park, Flatbush, Crown Heights in Brooklyn, Muncie, a little bit further north from the city. And they're all Hasidic and non-Hasidic, and they're all Orthodox, all of them. And you constantly see intermarriage between the ultra-Zionist Chabadnik Jews and the so-called anti-Zionist Neturai Kara and Satmar Jews.
So it's mostly fake for the most part.
It's all fake. Now, if we go to Neturai Kara, who we're told are these paragons of virtue, because of the fact we see them burning Israeli flags in occupied Palestine. They do it here, in London, in Australia, and elsewhere. Here's a very simple equation. You're an anti-Zionist? How about you get the hell off the land that you're squatting on?
Exactly.
I have Palestinian friends, I know you
Palestine,
do too.
yeah.
And these are people who have been in the Western diaspora for decades. They can't go back to their homeland.
No.
But these so-called anti-Zionist Jews, they can.
Yep.
Now, this particular group, Neturai Kara, that's an Aramaic phrase. It comes from the Talmud. So when we think about the Talmud and all the vile things that are written within it,
It's disgusting. I had a guest come and break it down. It was just, they actually took it off YouTube and everything was factually correct in there. I'm worried they're going to take this off YouTube. Everything's factually correct. They don't want us exposing the supremacists, you know?
they don't.
It's like these supremacist people, it's like, imagine we can expose white supremacists, we can expose black supremacists, but expose them, they don't
No,
like it.
Jewish supremacism, Jewish supremacy is the no-no. And what's crazy is, just like you noted, Achi, that this is not something that Jake Shields is making up. It's not something that Jonathan Azaziah is making up. This is something that comes directly from their books.
I think it's important understanding the Talmud. And some people are like, oh, well, I'm atheist now. It's like, okay, but your culture was shaped off this. And I'm not even saying it's all of it, but you have to look if your culture was shaped off this book. And there's a reason why they don't want us looking into it. Like literally taking passages from the book, they took it off YouTube. Imagine if you took the passages from the Bible that were bad, they wouldn't take that off YouTube.
Never.
Or the Quran. You can do that. You can say all kinds of bad things about Muhammad and all this.
Yep.
And you should be able to. I believe in free speech, but then you talk about this, you can't.
Of course. And the Talmud especially, because it expounds upon the deep-rooted Jewish hatred for Gentiledom in general. You know, I quoted this on the last program, but I think it bears repeating, that according to the Jerusalem Talmud, I actually remember the passage off the top of my head, 4:11:7 in the Kiddushin tractate of the Jerusalem Talmud. It says the best of the Gentiles shall be killed. Yeah. So, I mean, when you and I think of that, we think of our scientists, our lawyers, our doctors, our intellectuals, our poets, our artists.
Even the best of us should be killed.
Our fighters. And the best of us should be killed.
But even if I said if even the best of them should be killed, that would be like the most crazy.
Of course. People would go off the handle if you said it, but they can say it. So back to Neturai Kara, the anti-Zionist Jews. They say their whole title, their very name, it comes from the Talmud. And they have taught, I remember writing a piece about this 2.5 years ago. They believe that the Talmud is the word of God. Imagine that. This book is filled with child rape, mass murder, and the animalization of an entire group, multiple groups of people.
Goyim,
black folks,
cattle,
white folks, Arabs, Asians.
Like, we're all Goyim. Me and you are both Goyim. You know, you're from Iraq, right? Your descent, your parents, you know, but we're both the same to them.
All the
same. They don't
differentiate.
differentiate.
And the craziest thing is that a common misconception that we hear, I mean, this appears as well, but people always say the Goyim, the word that you see the most that would be the best comparison for it is cattle. It's actually not it. It's actually not it. The word is actually an Aramaic Hebrew word, and it's a corruption of Arabic, the word hamar, which means donkey. Well, the Jews say hamorim, donkeys. So that's what they view Gentiles as beasts of burden, as donkeys. We're supposed to carry their weight while they rule the world. Wow. And this Talmudic euphemism, it ties all the way back into each of these groups because they believe in it. So if you believe in it, we probably are not going to be able to get along. And Neturai Kara, they're not Palestinian Jews either. This is something they love to ram down our throat. They didn't come from Palestine. Their group actually was created in Hungary, and they started as settlers. Their original conceptualization was supposed to be settling on the land of what we call Al-Quds, Jerusalem. So how are you anti-Zionist and you were part of the Zionist project from the jump?
Thanks for watching Fight Back Podcast. If you like the show, like, subscribe, or share the video. There's also donation links in the descriptions. All right, quick break to talk about something I've just started using, Rumble Wallet. If you've ever been curious about buying and investing in cryptocurrencies or Bitcoin or Tether, but felt like it was too complicated, Rumble Wallet is an easy way to get started. You can buy, sell, and manage your cryptocurrencies all in one place. The app is super easy and straightforward. What really makes Rumble Wallet unique is that you can use it to tip your favorite creators on Rumble. To get started, download the Rumble Wallet app and sign up with your existing Rumble account. Click my link in the descriptions or search Rumble Wallet in your app store. I've always mocked this when you have the people out there in Israel saying they're anti-Zionist. It's like, then leave. That's
Just
not
leave.
your land. Yeah, you're in there. It's not your land. Go.
You're American, you're South African, you're English, you're whatever the hell you are. We all know you got a second passport. Hop on the plane and bounce.
Yeah.
So they're lying. And above and beyond that, something that everyone needs to know is that all of these yeshivas, these Jewish schools, these synagogues, these temples, these Jewish seminaries, they're all funded by the Zionist regime itself. So you burn an Israeli flag in the street while you take Israeli money. And again, how is it that you're so anti-Zionist? You're so anti-Zionist, but you intermarry with these Zionist groups? So it's definitely a fraud. And I would say, as we segue back into Chabad now, that through Menachem Mendel Schneerson, who is the treacherous rabbi who has really expanded the influence of Chabad over a period of decades, extending from what we know as the West to what we know as the East.
And they're everywhere.
Everywhere.
Like Henry Ford's great book, I remember reading, talking about everywhere you go, they're there, everywhere.
It's true.
Brazil, China, he's like every corner of the world.
Japan, Thailand. I mean, places where
he's places you can't find any crack of the world. You'll find them.
And what's crazy is that, I mean, these places don't have any type of Judaic history, but you find Chabad in these places so they can plant their feet and plant their tentacles. Because, again, this is where things get even darker. I remember a couple years ago, you and I were just talking about it before we went on air, the tunnels in New York.
That's their headquarters. Literally where they came crawling out of the tunnels, that is the Chabad headquarters.
Yeah. 770 Eastern Parkway in Brooklyn. And
they said kids were digging those tunnels. This is one of the most powerful organizations in the world.
Right.
That's not an explanation for these tunnels. Give me a break.
No, and the craziest, and it was even crazier, is that a lot of these so-called kids, they were Israeli.
They don't dig. They're not doing any manual labor.
Well, right, and it came out. It came out in the New York Post. Interestingly enough, that there were Mexican workers down there and other undocumented migrants that were hired by these Israelis, which is typical.
Yeah,
like you said, they got a problem with manual labor.
Don't like manual labor.
And you know what? Just for the record, just to defend my brother, this isn't something that is a quote-unquote anti-Semitic stereotype. It's in the Talmud. The Jews, the rabbis, they argue against the idea of physical labor, and they said that
Goyim.
Exactly. And the Jews' preferred work, they say, is monetary law or financial law. In other words, scamming Goyim.
Scamming the Goyim. In the Epstein files, he goes, this is how the Jew makes money. When he's talking about like shorting shipping routes, manipulation, don't want to get off track, but it's like they are kind of interconnected with the Chabad group.
Oh, well, directly when it comes to Epstein.
That's what I was wondering, if there was a connection there.
There is. A lot of people don't know that Epstein grew up in a house across the street from a Chabadnik synagogue.
No way. So he's Chabad. It would make sense. That's what I was thinking. He has to be. They seem like they're the ones pulling all the strings.
Yeah.
Javier Milei from Argentina.
Yeah. All the way to the Kremlin in Russia.
That's very... Yeah, you mentioned this. People don't know. Okay, you think, not Putin. You can give me the specifics, but he fired one of his top advisors, I think, because he was criticizing them.
Yeah, he did. His one of the members of his national security team.
A very important member of his government.
Yeah, very important. He called Chabad a neo-pagan satanic cult.
Sounds right.
Which is right on the money. Again, because if you trace back the spiritual lineage that we discussed at the very beginning, you had the founder, Shnoya Zalman of Liadi. He took his spiritual dictation from the Baal Shem Tov, who had open discussions with Satan as per their own traditions.
That's crazy. You say, I'm talking to Satan and demons, and they become this powerful. Well, they say our souls are satanic.
That's right. That's right. So this is extended throughout the whole of Russia. You know, the problem with most analysis about Russia, my brother, is that people looked at what happened between Vladimir Putin and a handful of Jewish oligarchs like Boris Berezovsky.
Which are almost all part of the tribe, right? All the oligarchs.
All of them.
The Russian mafia. Look up who that.
All of them.
Look up his early life section.
Yeah. Well, it's true. It's true. I mean, there was an amazing book called Red Mafia, spelled Mafia, written by what may have been one of the few good Jews in the world, Robert Friedman. He was a brave person who confronted...
I like Bobby Fischer, too.
Yeah, well, my man Bobby, he didn't identify with the J, but it's true. So Robert Friedman, he confronted the Jewish mafia directly. And even though a lot of people say that he died by natural causes, if you read his book, they more than likely assassinated him.
Yeah, so when you hear the Russian mafia...
It's the Jewish mafia.
Exactly, bingo.
Yeah, you hear those words, Red Mafia, Organizacija, as they call it, or any other type of Slavic mafia, 9 times out of 10.
The U.S. mafia, we always are taught it was Italians in the movie, and then I learned as I get older, that wasn't the case. You obviously know that. Do you think they had ties to, they probably had ties to
They did.
Well?
They absolutely did. It's well known. If you take a look at Mickey Cohen, for example. Mickey Cohen, major gangster out in L.A.
In L.A., Hollywood. Yeah, he helped create Hollywood.
Yep. And he had open ties to
Really?
Chabad. How about Mo Dalitz? Mo Dalitz received a Lifetime Achievement Award from the ADL. Mo Dalitz was another one, openly connected to Chabad.
Wow.
So with
Mickey Cohen's very interesting because he helped shape the narratives in Hollywood, and also we're in Vegas right now. He helped open the Flamingo, which was the first big one on the street. I think he pissed off some people, and they got the okay to kill him from Meyer Lansky.
That's right.
But that's right here where we're at.
Everywhere you look, and then considering where we are, if you fast forward to modern times, I would say that without question, the Adelson family, absolutely gangsters.
Yep.
No one can dispute that. And they too have open ties. They're funding to Chabad.
Wow. Well, they flew Pollard, Jonathan Pollard, who is completely treacherous scum to America.
Yep.
After he got out of prison, they flew him in a private plane to Israel for a hero's welcome. And then this guy bought Trump. That's what I'm like. I thankfully didn't vote for Trump this last term. Seeing this being like, I did fall for it the first term, but it's like,
well. The Adelson family, and a lot of these families for that matter, some of your most powerful Zionist families in the world, they in fact are giving money to Chabad, which brings us back around to Russia, because when you look at these oligarchs like Lev Leviev, for example, who is arguably the world's most notorious blood diamond dealer. Another one is Dan Gertler, who has literally been at the forefront of the Goyicide, the mass killing in the Congo over coltan for almost 25 years now. Coltan is the metallic material that we find in these things right here.
oh,
right?
so it's very valuable.
Your TV screens, your cell phones, your laptops, coltan is in all of it. And it has been this vile Jew, Dan Gertler, and his rival, Benny Steinmetz, who have been pillaging the Congo. Both of them are connected to Chabad.
I haven't even heard about that. That's crazy how this just gets buried. And the blood diamond thing, like you said, that's all these diamond mines. It's the same people manipulating it.
It's true. And this is going back, you're talking hundreds of years. You hear the name rather, De Beers.
Yeah.
Right? De Beers. You think, it's got to be, is it French? Duh, Beers. Maybe it's Dutch, right? It ain't Dutch and it ain't French.
I'm guessing it's Jewish.
It is Jewish. It was owned by the Oppenheimer family. So, and the Oppenheimers had a very close relationship with the Rothschild dynasty. And then as we look at Russia through Lev Leviev, and several of these other oligarchs, they are openly funding Chabad. The chief rabbi of Russia.
Where they got their money. That's what I was curious. So it's all these different oligarchs, all these, probably a lot of U.S. billionaires too.
Big time. And this situation with Russia is particularly disturbing because the chief rabbi is Berel Lazar. Okay? Yep. Everybody can look him up too. Berel Lazar.
People should look up stuff we're talking about, by the way. Don't take our word for it.
I always say that. I said it on the last program that you were kind enough to invite me on, and I'll say it again. You never have to take anything that comes out of my mouth, your mouth, or anyone else. Look it up yourself.
You know, when I first met you, I looked up a lot of things you said, and then once I started seeing a pattern of everything being right, then I started trusting you. But I do that with everyone. You're not
It's
true.
true.
I think you have to look at patterns to see make sure I'm getting correct information.
Yeah, you have to. So Berel Lazar, he's had a very interesting relationship with Putin because sometimes it looks adversarial from the point of the media, but you have to stop reading the headlines.
Just like Trump.
Exactly like Trump.
And stuff.
Yeah, exactly like Trump. And don't get me wrong, because this is, again, this is probably part of a bigger and more abyssal discussion, but there is a fine line between serving the Jews and disliking the Jews.
Yeah, and some of these guys probably don't like getting punked out by them.
Absolutely. Especially you think of someone like, or Putin for that matter.
Trump and Putin, both of them, their egos.
These are big personalities, had prominence at various parts of their lives. Trump in the business world, Putin as an ex-spy and as an ex-military man, right? Being told what to do by these parasites.
No, they don't like it. It humiliates Trump. But
It
they want to
does.
make sure to humiliate him. Like just today, Netanyahu said something like the Trump answers to him, lets him know everything he goes. He made it clear that the White House calls him daily to let him know what's happening. And he pulled his chair out. He just he wants it clear that this guy does what I tell you.
You know, my dear brother of mine on our Telegram channel, it was Global Resistance News. The ADL got that deleted. Now we're Revolution Anti-Parasitica. But a dear brother of mine, shout out to my man, Lieutenant PKP, he called Trump Netanyahu's chair butler.
That's awesome.
And I can't think of a more
That's so
apt
good. No, I'm
description.
stealing that from him. What's the guy so I can credit him?
PKP.
That's awesome.
Take it. The chair butler.
Yeah.
And that's what the Jews have essentially...
butler.
The chair butler. That's what he is.
He is. And then he gave him a golden pager, which is the death threat, as you know, because I'm sure they've sent you pagers and stuff as well.
Yeah, man. It's interesting that you mentioned that. A few years ago, it's actually been 8 years now, but I came under fire. And a lot of people don't know this because I'm off social
Kind of
media.
stay behind the scenes, right?
Yeah,
And researching.
I mean, other than the Telegram channel, I try to stay off because first and foremost, I hate it. Social media is all fake and gay, and I can't stand it. But I came under fire from B'nai B'rith, which is the oldest Jewish charity, in the oldest Jewish lobbying group in the world.
It's been around for a long
Forever.
time.
It's a Jewish Freemasonry organization. And it's where a lot of other Freemasonry organizations have ultimately taken their cues from. And they came after me because of it was my 7th album, Eternally Hosseini. I woke up on my birthday to 1,000 messages, and no one was wishing me happy birthday. They were all like, Jonathan.
You can't get happy birthday on your birthday? What the
Not
hell?
even on my birthday, fam. The struggle continues, even on your birthday.
You on your birthday.
And they were like, yo, Jonathan, where's your music at? I originally had it on Bandcamp.
They took it all down?
It was all deleted, no word.
Damn.
Money that they were holding, money that I earned from my music, they held it.
Want to
I've
steal
never
your
seen
money.
it.
Yeah, they go after your finances. As you know, that's the first thing when I started speaking
First
up. They
thing.
went after my finances. But I'm like, one, I'm willing to sacrifice, and two, thankfully, I had some people in my corner for the most part that stood beside me. I was very fortunate because they tried to destroy your money.
Well, I'm glad that you made it through. I wasn't as fortunate, and it was pretty difficult.
They
but
make it tough.
I don't want to divert the
Yeah.
attention to me. I don't. But
But
it's
all your sacrifice is appreciated, by the way.
no doubt. Thank you.
Even before I met you, everyone I know that I think highly of kept like praising you, being like, "Oh, you gotta talk to Jonathan. You gotta talk to Jonathan." So I'm like, "All right, I guess I'll talk to Jonathan."
Well, that case, it dragged on for a little over a year. And during that time, I don't think I've ever talked about this in public before, but I was getting death threats on a daily basis.
God, they're vile people.
From the JDL, from what was then known as the J.
Isn't the JDL, isn't that a terrorist organization?
It is a terrorist organization. It has been registered right here in the good old USA as a terrorist group, and yet so many of their ideologues, they continue to operate. I mean, even now, at the heart of the usurping Zionist entity, Itamar Ben-Gvir, who's one of the most...
he's a disgusting, evil, vile, worse than Netanyahu, I think. It's hard, as to imagine. He's just such a disgusting...
And for the record, he's not Ashkenazi. He's a Kurdish Jew. So that's something else that everybody needs to get through their head, that this is not a so-called white Jew problem. It's not a so-called European Jew problem. You hear about this so often, that all these Yahud and the Zionist entity...
Just blaming the white Jews wherever, I know you hear that a lot.
Exactly, and that they should go back to Europe. I hate to break it to everyone, a good amount of these devils are not from Europe.
Yeah.
A good amount of these devils, roughly 45 to 55% of them, they come from Arab, Kurdish, Iranian, and Afghani stock. So the problem...
And I don't want them in America, I know that.
Family, I don't think anybody wants them anywhere.
No.
I
think that's the truth at this point. It's like you see what they do everywhere they go.
Well, it's true. And I mean, if we could get to the dark side of the moon, and I don't think the moon landing happened, personally.
Send them out there. We'll just put them on a rocket and find out.
That's it. Can we do like some video game shit and put them at the bottom of the ocean in a biodome?
Yeah.
But, the problem in Palestine, even in the context of what we're talking about, Chabad happens to be from Eastern Europe.
Yeah, so lots of these guys are there than a lot of their prime ministers and stuff, but yeah, exactly. The ones from the Middle East are problems too.
Absolutely.
The opium wars, you look back, they were they Turkish or where were they from?
They were Iraqi.
Yeah, exactly.
They were Baghdadi Jews. In fact, the Sassoon family, they were known as the Rothschilds of Baghdad. Yep. And they almost wiped China out.
For people that don't know, they were selling opium in China. China decided they wanted to ban it, and they convinced England to go to war for them so they could keep selling them opium.
That's exactly what happened. And that should remind everyone.
These are Iraqi Jews.
Iraqi Jews, it's true. And now, if that probably is ringing a bell for people, like, where have I heard that before? Probably Afghanistan, right? We went into Afghanistan.
Bingo.
After the Taliban scorched the opium fields.
The Taliban destroyed all the opium.
Yeah.
But they flourished. Then what happens? They start selling, the Sackler family start selling opium. That's my people, white people, like 100,000 a year dying of my people, you know? It's like when Io with crack, how he gets angry. It's like we had this conversation. It's like, I can get it. They destroyed his people. They destroyed my people.
Yeah, they destroyed everyone. Everyone. And I mean, funnily enough, when you look at the crack epidemic, that of course came from Iran. It came from the Iran-Contra situation, right?
That was Iran-Contra, which was...
And it was the CIA, but also, what a lot of people don't know, the Mossad as well. And they were using the Contras, which were these paramilitaries in Nicaragua, and they were using their connections with cocaine to fund their weapon sales for black ops. And then this cocaine will get transported to South Central LA where they will cook crack.
Destroy the black communities.
And destroyed the black community. Destroyed a lot of communities.
Yeah, not just black communities, but that's who hit the hardest.
Anybody who comes from the projects, the slums, trailer parks, it affected everyone.
We've seen what it's done to people. I mean, you grew up in projects, you probably saw a lot of people, your friends around you just destroyed.
Of course.
And it can destroy people quick.
Very
quickly.
Drugs
take a long time. You get destroyed in crack, like 6 months. I've seen people just start fucking going crazy.
And well, they call it ringing the bell. And once you ring the bell the first time, you're sitting there chasing the bell, so you can feel that
the high is never going to be the same.
It's never going to be the same, and it destroyed the lives of a lot of people that I know. Yeah. And the missing link there between the CIA and the Yahud was Mike Harari. Mike Harari was the Mossad operations chief that was literally the handler of Noriega in Panama. And when George H.W. Bush dumped him, because this is what happens. They put a puppet in, they take the puppet out. As soon as he's not useful anymore.
He's not listening, then they take him out. Yep.
That's it.
He's been doing that for...
Forever.
Yeah, for at least 100 years,
we're talking,
longer. The Iran war, that was originally because we put a puppet in there, the Shah, and as you know, the people rebelled, got rid of him, and now here we are at another stupid war.
Another stupid war. And I don't know how many people have really taken the time to talk about this as we kind of segue into Iran, because it's important. But, Iran there was this crazy event that happened on the day the ceasefire was announced. I found it to be extraordinarily disturbing. A synagogue was allegedly bombed. And, you know, originally, Netanyahu, he disputed it, denied it outright.
Yeah.
Israel would never bomb a synagogue. And this, of course, is completely fraudulent because the Jews do what they want to benefit world
They
Jewry.
bomb girls' schools.
Exactly.
They'll kill Jews at the October 7th like they did.
Well, it's not just that, my dear brother. A lot of people more than likely haven't heard this either, but there was an Iraqi Jew who allegedly converted to Christianity before he passed away, named Naim Giladi. And he wrote about how synagogues, cafes, apartment buildings in Baghdad were bombed.
But it turned out it was Mossad. They
It
were
was
trying
Mossad.
to. They were blaming the Muslims to get them to move to Israel. Correct.
Exactly.
I remember stumbling across that story.
Okay. And the devil that was behind that, his name was Mordecai ben Parat. Everyone can look that up too. Mordecai ben Parat, P-O-R-A-T. And Mordecai ben Parat was a long-time Mossadnik. But think about that. The Jews had it good in Baghdad.
Yeah, they didn't want to move. They're like, no, we're good. So they started bombing them.
And why did they have it so good? Because they were money changers. They were jewelers. They were drug dealers. And they didn't want to leave, but they did. And they came to comprise a huge portion of the Zionist entity, to the point where easily the most famous rabbi in the usurping Zionist entity's history, Rabbi Ovadia Yosef, who famously said that all Goyim were put on earth to serve the Jews. He had the biggest funeral in the history of the Zionist entity. Not a white Jew, not a European Jew, an Iraqi Mizrahi Jew.
Was this in occupied Palestine?
This is in occupied Palestine. Over 700,000 people. So you're talking a little bit more than maybe roughly 15% of the entire Zionist entity came out for this scumbag's funeral. And it's definitely not beyond them under any circumstances to harm their own if they have to.
Robert Maxwell, they killed when he became unuseful. As soon as they become unuseful, they just have their goals, and they'll kill the Jews if it becomes unuseful. They just don't seem to have any humanity. Obviously, they prefer them Jews over the Goyim if they can choose, but they'll kill us too. Yeah, bombing the synagogue, back to that. What was with that?
Well, the crazy thing was, originally it was reported that the bombing happened around 6, 7 o'clock in the morning, right? But then the Jewish community, they said it happened more like 3 o'clock in the morning. But now, keep in mind that, as you noted, they bombed the Menab girls' school, murdering 168 people. 168 little girls and boys, and about a dozen teachers on top of it. And remember that this happened on day one.
This was the first thing we struck, I believe. I think that was the first missile we launched. It was like a sacrifice to start off with.
It was. It absolutely was. Because when did this war kick off?
American, you know.
This war kicked off on the Shabbat
holiday,
before Purim. Shabbat Zakor, a special Shabbat where the Jews read passages about Amalek and how Amalek, the eternal enemy of the Jews, must be blotted out. That's why we call it...
Amalek? Who's Amalek? Us?
We are all Amalek. At various points in the Talmud, you see white folks, specifically Germanic folks and Romans, interesting, described as Amalek. Arabs and Persians are described as Amalek. But Gentiles in general, any Gentile that opposes the Jews is Amalek.
And they want to kill all of you. Complete genocide. Man, woman, child, dog.
Everyone.
Rabbit.
It is rabbit, cat, some of y'all that keep snakes and fish.
Olive trees.
That's it.
Everything. They want to destroy it all.
Everything that belongs to the Gentiles can be looked at as Amalek, and all of Gentiledom itself can be looked at as Amalek. So now remember, this is this strike that happened. This was on Passover. So again, everyone we live in America.
Yeah, it's always on these holidays and stuff.
Always.
I'm starting to notice this pattern. I'm new to this stuff. I'm starting to notice this pattern of these holidays doing
Iraq,
these things.
March 20th of 2003, Purim. Libya invaded on the same day, 2011, another Purim war. Yugoslavia, also right in the same frame.
Wow.
And again, my brother PKP, shout out to him again, he has noticed that also the COVID scamdemic launched on Purim. It was announced within the realm of Purim. So all these major global events tie back to this. And again, we live in America. This
Yeah.
is a predominantly white, predominantly Christian country. You would think that everything in this country would revolve around Christianity.
Not a small religion.
Not this small, which just happens to be
are you a Muslim?
Yeah, of
But
course.
you understand America's mostly a Christian country, so you don't jump around being like we have to do Muslim countries because you're aware that it's like you get it. You're a guest,
100%.
not necessarily a guest, but like
No, I know what you
they come
mean.
here like, oh, we're manipulating, telling you how to behave, and it's like I would never go to an Islamic country and I'll be like, I look at how people behave, what the rules are, what you're supposed to do, and I adapt.
Well, that's because
But-
you're a decent human being, as I personally believe most Gentiles are. And, you know, it's interesting that you mention this as well, because this is a predominantly white, predominantly Christian country. And you would think that there would be Christmas celebrations on the White House lawn. But
Is there not?
it's been severely scaled back over the last few
I haven't really
years.
thought about that. That's,
And you know what is instead in front of the White House seemingly every Christmas, because usually the Jewish Goyicidal holiday of Hanukkah coincides with Christmas. There's this gigantic, and it seems to get bigger every year, this hideous dark gray steel menorah on the White House lawn. And where does that come from? Chabad.
that's about putting it there.
Chabad. From
Yeah,
the
they're
personal
ones that have the
rabbi.
door.
The personal rabbi, Jared Kushner. And I
Yeah, isn't he a Chabad member?
He's Chabad too.
That's interesting.
He's
There's-
Chabad too.
In the Epstein files, it was just a tip, so I don't know if it's accurate, but it sound does. It basically said Jared Kushner through Chabad was secretly running the Trump administration. It's like, well, that kind of seems obvious. Whether that tip was legit or not, that seems like that's pretty accurate.
Yeah, it is. It's definitely accurate, and I'll do you one better. They always seem to have someone in the administration. How about Tony Blinken from
Yep.
the Biden administration?
He's-
Tony Blinken, openly Chabad connected, openly
was
Epstein
Chabad
connected.
too? Damn.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
he was basically the one probably running the Biden administration. He was always over
Just
his
about.
shoulder. Biden was stumbling around. That guy was a clear moron.
You know, it's funny that in Iraq, every time that, because the disgusting regime in Iraq run by an individual named al-Sudani, total puppet of America and Israel, and he actively hunted down young resistance fighters. We're talking 19, 20, 21. Kids that just wanted to get their get back for Palestine, for Lebanon, now Iran. And Anthony Blinken openly requested from Sudani for him to stop these young resistance fighters from shooting Shahed 136 drones at American Zog bases and Israeli bases as well, and the occupied Golan Heights, Arqab missiles also. And Iraqis started putting out press statements calling him Jew, son of a Jew, Blinken.
Nice. Yeah, I've been disgusted by a lot of these Arab leaders, by the way. I don't think they get attacked enough because
They don't.
I'm like,
They
too many
absolutely
of these
don't.
guys, these Muslims, don't attack their guys enough. I had some fights with them over this. I'm like, I'm calling out my leader all the time. And I get it. In your country, you might get murdered or something. But if not, call these fucking cowards out.
Oh yeah,
Fuck
I
these
mean,
scum.
I agree with you entirely, Akhi. You know, there's actually a verse in the Quran, the 9th chapter of the Quran, ayah 97, where God Almighty Himself, subhanahu wa ta'ala, talks about the disbelief and the nifaq, the hypocrisy of the quote-unquote desert Arabs. And when you look at this region, Arabia, what we prefer to call the occupied Hijaz, there is no country called Saudi Arabia. Saudi is the name of a family who we
Really?
we'd probably, yeah, I mean, we probably call them
Crypto,
Definitely.
possibly. I know there's that rumor going around.
definitely.
They're,
Well, you know what? It's actually,
they're allies with Israel. If you look at 9/11, we're
time.
not getting to that day, but 9/11, it's Saudi Arabia and Israel. Are
Absolutely.
Kind of, so the Saudi connections are 100% real.
oh, they are.
Hey guys, I want to introduce you to one of our sponsors, Antelope Hill Publishing. Antelope Hill publishes books such as Culture of Critique by Dr. Kevin McDonald, who's someone I've interviewed on my show. He talks about the evolutionary strategy of the chosen people. So go to antelopehillpublishing.com and use promo code FIGHTBACK to support the podcast and get a discount. That's antelopehillpublishing.com and promo code FIGHTBACK. Hey guys, I'm demonetized everywhere. So if you want to support me and the podcast, go to fightbackpodcast.com and you can buy some cool merch like the shirt I'm wearing now.
And do you know that there was a study done by the Jewish Studies Center in Iran, which recently, bizarrely enough, it was their website was taken offline, and they did an incredible study linking the history of a region called Najd, in the occupied Hijaz, where the Saudis originate from. Now, this is interesting because in the eschatological hadith, like the end times sayings of the Prophet, we're told that there will be this great earthquake. It's metaphorical. This great earthquake that will come from Najd. And then you look at Saudi Arabia and all the problems that they've caused all over the region, all over the world, funding these mosques in Europe where ISIS and their ilk come from.
Exactly. These are the people funding. Our allies are the ones funding ISIS, not Iran. Iran was never funding ISIS or Al-Qaeda. That was our allies.
Yep, it's true. And there'll be more on this with regard to Chabad in just a moment, because it's very important, actually. Well, I guess we could kind of jump right into it. I mean, maybe some of you have seen that there's this hideous and obese Jew running around by the name of Rabbi Jacob Yisrael, and he's proclaiming himself to be the chief rabbi of Saudi Arabia, the chief rabbi of the UAE.
I haven't seen him.
And you've seen this demon. You might have seen this going viral in memes, where he's like dancing with princes from the UAE. The UAE, just so everyone understands, they have something in their skies as we speak called Falcon Eye, and it was designed by Israeli intelligence. Wow. So all of these stupid folks that are going over to the UAE thinking they're going to live their best life, as the memes say, right? You're talking about influencers, boxers, MMA fighters, financiers.
I was actually getting paid really good money to go over there, but I'm not going to fucking take money not to speak my tongue, so I called it out. Now I can't go back, and I was being paid extremely well, but there's more in life to fucking money. I'm like, I'm not going to not call this shit out when I see it.
They're all devils. They're all devils.
I was supposed to go to Saudi Arabia too, but fuck that now.
Forget it all.
They're just trying to throw money, but it's like, hey, don't fucking sell your soul for money, man.
Well, you know, it's funny because during the fight between Tyson Fury and Francis Ngannou, there were people that came in there with Palestine flags and they were thrown out.
Yeah, the UFC shut those down. I had friends that were fighting in Abu Dhabi, Muslim. They tried coming out the Palestinian flag. They wouldn't let them.
Really?
They shut it down, the UFC.
It doesn't surprise me. They are in thick with the Yahud, and throughout the course of the last 39 days of this horrible aggression against Iran, while the UAE and Saudi, they tried to portray themselves as being against the war.
They're all over
behind closed doors. They're like this, saying, go harder, wipe the regime out in Iran. And of course,
the Islamic world, if they united, they could take Israel down. But you're like, oh, they're actually on Israel's side, and that's absolutely disgusting. And these guys need to be attacked more. Yeah,
they should. And that's why, I mean, for us, as the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps and the rest of the Iranian armed forces, and I know this is probably going to get me, and unfortunately it might get you in trouble by extension, but it's just the truth. We were all cheering, Akhi. We were all cheering as drones and missiles hit these disgusting dictatorial regimes, especially because in 2015, this ungodly event happened that still to this day people don't fully grasp the horror and the nightmarishness of what took place in Yemen. Yemen is the poorest country in the Arab world, blockaded, besieged, and it was Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Qatar, Bahrain, covertly, Oman, covertly, Pakistan, all joined together to wage war on the poorest country in the Arab world. Hundreds of thousands of innocent people, mostly children, were murdered. Sick. And the entire war, Akhi, the entire war was designed by Israel.
It's supposed to be fucking Islamic brothers, and they're fucking killing them. These traitors, like.
And the same thing, in 11 years to the day, the same thing happened. And that's the cherry on top of the sundae, that all of these disgusting despotic regimes, they were giving full approal. Not partial.
They were encouraging,
They were encouraging America and
pushing
Israel.
You're using us as like I hate traitors. Like, I hate the white traitors the most. They bother me the most. My own people that betrayed my race, my culture, to go work for another. It's just absolutely disgusting.
Well, the same thing goes for us, Akhi. I mean, we say it all the time. That, I mean, if the Yahud are the enemy of God, you know, it's in the Quran. It's fascinating and enlightening, subhanAllah, that there is no other group. You're told about all kinds of hypocrites and various forms of disbelievers, but the only group that's referred to as Qatlan al-Anbiya, which translates literally to killers of the prophets. The only ones that are called killers of the prophets are the Jews. So if you work for the killers of the prophets, that makes you worse
you're
than
a killer
them.
of the prophet, exactly.
And that too.
When we take our country back, we need to make a death penalty. Any traitors that works for the enemy gets death penalty. I think
they have to.
We can't allow.
I mean,
these
you
traitors.
mentioned Jonathan Pollard a little earlier, and I mean, it's incredible that this person was let out. And the reason why, that he was let out was because of heavy pressure from a handful of Orthodox Jewish groups, the chieftain of which
Chabad, right?
being Chabad. And
they tried getting Clinton to pardon him. That's when they dropped
right.
Monica Lewinsky. She's a member of the tribe. A lot of people don't know this. You just start seeing the patterns everywhere when it starts flooding in.
I mean, Achi, the stories are that Monica Lewinsky was an outright Mossad spy working directly under, make of that what you will, Benjamin Netanyahu.
Yeah,
so
that seems like the most likely scenario from what I've gathered.
I agree.
And then they gave the story to the Drudge Report, who is of the tribe.
Of course. And what's extremely interesting is that Bill Clinton did not want to sign the Iraq Liberation Act. That's why everybody needs to stop voting. Right? I don't mean to piss on anybody's parade, but really stop voting.
Well, unless Dan Bazarian's district didn't vote otherwise.
Or our brother Ayo Kamathi. Shout out to brother Ayo
exactly,
Kamathi up in Maryland. But outside of people
I'll only
like
vote if there's an extreme anti-Zionist candidate.
That's
Otherwise,
it.
I won't vote. I'm not falling to this left versus right shit anymore.
You know why? Because Achi, it's a continuum. It's like a Jewish continuum. So Bill Clinton doesn't want to sign the Iraq Liberation Act.
And what was that going to do?
And that was going to give America the authority to invade Iraq to protect its interests, which is a crock. It wasn't its interest. It was Israel's interest, right?
Invade Iraq to protect their interests. Oh, my God.
And it's hilarious because you already had your interests. Saddam had a good deal with you, right?
Yeah.
So Clinton didn't want to sign it. Well, after the scandal with Monica Lewinsky comes out, guess what? He puts his name on the
I
dotted
bet
line.
they had something worse on him because obviously he was really
of
good
course.
friends with Epstein. That was like a warning shot, I think.
I agree completely. And then Bush cites the Iraq Liberation Act to go to war. You see?
It's all tied together.
So, I mean, people today, for example, I mean, there was a lot of controversy a couple weeks ago. You probably saw that, it was maybe 10 days ago, I think, where Trump, he said that he was going to go after a journalist for leaking certain information about the Iran war. And all of your morons on the left, they started shrieking at the top of their lungs. They forget that Obama is the only one who was actually out here prosecuting journalists.
Yeah.
So he created the machinery that Trump is now tapping into to inflict his own version of repression.
They use the parties so people will get behind it, I've realized. Like the Democrats were cheering on the Ukraine war. They used to be anti-war just because that's their party's behind. And then the Republicans, they said they were anti-war. Then they started cheering on the war in Palestine. I'm just like, it's all bullshit. It's all fake and gay.
It is. And again, even with Ukraine, the chief rabbi of Ukraine is Chabad.
Oh my God.
Right?
You know, I just a little off track, but this is not really actually because it's a Chabad person. Did you ever see the count, Libs of TikTok? It's to show the worst liberal
Of
people.
course.
To get conservatives mad at these crazy liberals.
She's Chabad, yeah.
And that's why I got boosted so heavily on Twitter.
Higher right chick,
because
right?
it came
That's
out,
her name?
so it came out of nowhere, just getting pushed like crazy, insane views. So I'm sure someone was finding these videos for her, pushing it. Then Twitter would boost it, and it just to get conservatives mad at these crazy liberals. And don't get me wrong, there's some crazy liberals out there, but that's not the biggest problem in America. It's being used to get us worked out over that instead of looking at the bigger problems.
I'll do you one better, my dear brother. All right? All of these problems that we have that are being exposed by Higher Right Chick, who, by the way, Higher Right Chick is from a very powerful rabbinical dynasty out of California. You look up the Right Chick family, again, don't take my word for a damn thing, look it up yourself. They are extremely well connected in Chabad. But all these things that she's talking about, whether it's transgenderism, ultra-liberalism, mass migration, all of these things that are not just running this country.
They're the ones pushing it off.
But they're the ones pushing it. So if you think about it again, this isn't, I mean, we call it anti-parasitism. That's what the Jews, their behavior is generally parasitic. And it comes from a famous quote from Malcolm X, God rest his soul, in which he said that I'm pointing out these Jews that own these liquor stores,
Yep.
that own these porno shops, that push this horrible food on us, that control the way we talk, they control the way we think. I'm not an anti-Semite, I'm anti-parasite, right? So natural extension of
Yep.
that is anti-parasitism. I think it's the perfect
Yeah.
term.
He also says, "Oh, I'll talk a bunch of shit on white people. They'll post that. They'll play it. They'll promote
Yep.
it. I talk about the Jewish people. Does never see the interview. Never hits
Never.
there.
And he also talked about their control of the media, the way that they shut down any discussion that ultimately would come forth about the Yehud. But it's like, if you look at it, let's leave the anti-parasitism aside for a moment, and you're just dealing with it on a purely logical basis,
Yeah.
right? If you're a police officer, if you're someone looking into a murder, who, what, where, when, why, that's how you catch a
Yeah.
suspect. So if you're trying to uproot transgenderism and all this other liberal extremism, you would think, well, who's pushing this stuff?
Yeah, you look and see who's pushing it
And why they're
they'll
pushing
admit
it.
they push it in their own things. Hold your mic a little bit closer, just so we have a good.
Yeah.
I just want
Better?
to make it should be fine. I just want to make sure people hear
Well,
it.
I'm
good. Yeah.
I'm loud. So
Yeah, you're probably right. It's probably fine. No, but you see these interviews where they'll admit it themselves. I think it was that guy that runs PragerU. He was talking about how,
The isms.
oh yeah, we're behind all the isms. They'll
I
say
saw.
it themselves. Or if you watch it, when I first started watching these rabbis speak, it's like crazy. Like,
Yeah.
if I said a rabbi says that, I would probably get taken down. But then the rabbis say that.
well, you know, it's interesting that you bring this up, Ach, because there's a famous book called Jewish Power in America by a well-known liberal ideologue named J.J. Goldberg, and total Zionist fanatic. And this is actually what I was bringing up a little earlier on regarding Philip Weiss, the anti-Zionist writer. He actually went to this symposium of all these Yehud, and they started talking about how the best way to get the message across about Israel is to Gentiles. And Philip Weiss is saying, well, shouldn't Gentiles be here for this discussion? He has his own reasons for that, right? So that shouldn't be trusted either, but it's just fascinating nevertheless. And J.J. Goldberg says, well, the discussion needs to be had, but it has to be done outside of the earshot
So
of
we
the
can't
Goyim.
hear what they're talking about. Yeah.
They don't want us to hear what they're talking about. And this is the double standard, of course, including right now about Chabad.
Yeah.
Because, you know, Achi, you find a lot of criticism about Chabad, the way they operate, their aggressivity, their fanaticism. Lots of Jewish groups condemn this or criticize it. But the moment you and I start having this conversation,
Yeah, I'll be surprised. This might get pulled off YouTube, might get a strike, can't call us out because they're immense power. And it's like they seem to get away with whatever they want in New York. Things are always, it's almost like a crime mob syndicate, it seems like to me.
well, let's talk about that. You know that the DA of Brooklyn, just a happy little Shabbos Goy, Charles Hines, he was put into power by Chabad.
Yeah, not surprising at all.
And that's because of all of the accusations of pedophilia within their community. They are extensive. We're not talking about here and
Yeah,
there.
even doing it to each other, you're talking about, right? Because I think
Absolutely.
most of those kids are molested. I remember hearing that. So they're doing it to their own.
They're doing it to their own. One might even argue that for a lot of Jewish kids in a lot of these communities, it's a rite of passage for them, as sick and
sick.
twisted and as cult-like as that
And then
is.
that like makes a lot of people demented like for years. Also, when they're children, they take their penises and put it in a grown man's mouth and bite it off. It's like that's probably a little, scarring for them.
Well, listen, I mean, that's called metzitza b'peh, and that is a Talmudic ritual. And they have deemed this disgusting, pedophilic, rapist
It
practice.
obviously should be illegal.
It obviously,
If it was Muslims, we'd ban it. If it was Christians, we'd ban it.
Without
if it was atheists, we'd ban it.
without question. But with the Yehud, they have deemed it a sacrosanct. I mean, just
Look this up, people. They're literally putting a baby's dick in their mouth, like literally.
literally. And recently there was another story about another one.
right?
Giving the baby herpes. This has been a commonality for decades now.
Like, yeah, why the fuck they need to do this?
And
It's
and
just-
they fight to protect their quote unquote right. Not RIGHT, but RITE. They think it's a religious right to be able to do this to
suck
children.
a baby's dick.
It's despicable. It's absolutely
it's sick.
despicable and satanic, without question.
Are they the same group that does the chicken swinging? Like, isn't
Oh, no,
animal
I'll hear you.
sacrifice illegal in the U.S.? But
Well,
you
it's
let them
supposed
do
to
it?
be.
It's supposed to be. Sacrificing an animal?
Well,
That's
here's
disgusting.
here's another one. On that very note, and for the record, that's not just a Chabad thing. That's
all
a
Judaism,
that's a
right?
Jewish thing.
I mean, that's when Jesus came into the temple. He was trying to stop the sacrifice along with the money changing. You know,
Absolutely.
he made a whip to go in there and attack him.
That's right.
And then that's when they crucified him.
Absolutely. So something else interesting on that note about animals, and I think of PETA. You always see PETA, and constantly promoted by Hollywood and anyone else who may be involved in vegetarianism. And PETA never talks about this. You always see people wearing faux.
Yeah, they never attack that.
They never ever attack it, right?
Yeah.
So here's
if
a
they
gem.
cared about animals, they would. They also maybe would promote one of the most famous vegetarian to ever exist.
Certain Austrian painter.
Yeah, maybe they should push him if they actually really cared. They could make big posters of him, being like, "I loved animals." Like,
Yeah, it's true.
you know, he was one of the biggest pushers of animal rights in history.
Definitely. And you always see people in these PETA ads with faux fur coats. Don't wear animal fur, right? Well, the furrier business. Now, anyone,
I can already guess.
whoever's going to be editing this joint, they need to cue the every single time meme, you know? But the furrier, and everyone, if you're from New York, especially, or you travel to New York, or you're a fashionista, everyone knows this. You go down to the garment district in New York, everyone knows that the furrier business is dominated by the Yehud and almost entirely by Orthodox Jews, many of whom being Chabad.
So shouldn't the religion aspect do not be pushing the sexual degeneracy of like dressing as animals and having sex? See, it's the same thing with like Pornhub and all the porn they push. It's just, how can you be well, I guess it's part of the religion. I guess the question I'm answering is
You
stupid.
answered your own question. I mean,
Yeah, I just realized that's what I was asking you.
Right?
It's like,
I mean, you know, when I think
their
of
morals are backwards, maybe like what we view as good, you know, they don't.
Well, you know something that you commonly see in Jewish writing, be it Chabad or anyone else for that matter, any other Jewish sect or Jewish organization, and the Jews themselves, they've turned it into a meme of sorts, where they say that, well, what's good for the Jews? What's good for the Jews? And what's good for the Jews should be bad for the Goyim. And what's bad for the Goyim should be good for the Jews, right?
So they don't want it to be good for both of us.
They
So
don't.
you think to get a relationship to last, I want it to be good for you and for both of us. If that's a friendship,
Of course.
to have long-lasting friendships, it should benefit us both. But they look, how can it benefit me and not you?
Always. Which, you know, Achi, I think inadvertently, it actually swings us back around to Iran, because the Iranian Jews have portrayed themselves for many a year, that they are anti-Zionist Iranians first and they're Jews second. And nothing could be further from the truth. And there was a famous conversation that took place between Imam Khomeini, rahmatullah alayhi, may Allah rest his soul, and he spoke to the chief rabbi of Iran, who at the time was Yedidia Shofet. And Yedidia Shofet is the one who pitched this whole Jews and Zionists are different, this scam. And Imam Khomeini was in a very precarious position, because he wasn't just a revolutionary cursing the Shah, cursing America, cursing the usurping Zionist entity now. He was the ruler of the country. And in Islam, there's this concept of maslaha, which means almost literally, in a certain sense, expediency. You got to be expedient in a certain way. So his whole thing was, so long as you're not stirring up shit like I know you do, because if you read Islam and Revolution by Imam Khomeini, every time he writes the Jews, he says, may Allah's curses be upon them. All right? So it's not like he didn't know.
Yeah.
But he gave him a shot. And then the chieftain of the Jewish community, Habib el-Ghanian, again, everybody look this up. And my Iranian brothers, I love you with all of my heart, but you don't talk about this enough, and you should, because it's a point of pride. Habib el-Ghanian was personal friends with Menachem Begin, the perpetrator of the Sabra and Shatila massacre in Lebanon that left over 3,000 Palestinians and Lebanese slaughtered. And Imam Khomeini outright declared him to be a Mossad spy.
Yeah.
And he was on a first-name basis, not only with Menachem Begin, but several Israeli prime ministers. Interestingly enough, very much like Menachem Mendel Schneerson. And Imam Khomeini had Habib el-Ghanian hung for being a traitor and for being an Israeli agent, which he was.
Yeah.
And after that, Yedidia Shofet, the chief rabbi, he packed his bags and he went to America. And who helped him leave and found the very powerful and very wealthy Jewish community of Southern California? Chabad. Chabad. Now you fast forward to today. I mentioned this rabbi earlier, Jacob Israel Herzog. This murderous piece of sludge, he was calling for Hiroshima and Nagasaki to be repeated in Gaza. This was on October 12th, so you're talking 5 days after the Goyim started. 5 days after. This parasite is not only the chief rabbi of Saudi Arabia and the chief rabbi of the UAE, as I noted, so he also was traipsing around Iran, my dear brother.
They let these scums in these countries. That pisses me off.
So think about that. Iran obviously doesn't let anyone in on an Israeli passport. So you know how he traveled? On his American passport. And my theory, I don't have anything to substantiate it. I'm saying that openly. But just based on everything I know about Chabad, Iran, exactly, Yachi, the pattern recognition, my guess is that this demon was there to spy. He was given a safe haven by the Jewish community, which we'll bring to a crescendo in just a second. And I believe he passed intel to the Zionist entity about certain targets in Iran, because the Jewish community in Tehran specifically, it's right next to Palestine Square, which is where you always see these big million-man march demos in support of the Iranian state. So we fast forward to today. The chief rabbi of Iran today is Yehuda Garami, and Yehuda Garami is Chabad. Yehuda Garami is Chabad. Now, everyone remembers on the fateful day in 2020, January 3rd, when Haj Qasem Soleimani, the great lieutenant general of Iran, the leader and commander of the Quds Force, and his closest companion, the great Iraqi revolutionary and founder of the Iraqi Islamic resistance, Haj Abu Mahdi al-Muhandis, they were slaughtered in a drone strike proclaimed by America. Yeah. As I was sharing with you before the program, me personally, I've always believed that Israel carried out that strike because it fit an Israeli pattern.
It seems so random, too. I remember the time, it was just out of nowhere. We weren't like beefing with Iran, and boom, we struck them down. What was the alleged reason for killing them?
The reason that Haj Qasem was targeted was because of his alleged killing of Americans in Iraq. And this was revenge a long time coming. But any logical person, again, back to that idea, logic.
It didn't seem to add up.
Haj Qasem Soleimani, he did help the Shabab, the youth of Iraq, fight America. Why were they fighting America? Because America invaded our land.
Them. Yeah, it's like...
The British invaded our land.
Yeah.
So the Americans and the British that were targeted, they were only targeted in the capacity that they were invaders.
Of self-defense. Yeah, you have a right to defend your land.
Of course. We would do it if we were invaded.
I would defend my land if we're invaded. That's why when these right-wingers, I get mad at them sometimes when they're like calling the Palestinians terrorists. It's like, what would you do if they're raping your women, bashing you, stealing your shit? Would you fight back, or would you like let them rape you?
Of course.
Like, literally, they're raping the men. They're like just disgusting, vile, like...
I mean, I remember when that happened, Dachi, and it was
so sick.
And they went out into the street and they were protesting for the right to rape. Exactly,
the right to rape riots. They had pro-rape riots in Israel.
Pro-rape riots.
To sodomize men. It's just sick. What kind of sick, disgusting? Like, yeah, it was shameful when when they abused those prisoners. That was an embarrassment, but we were ashamed by it. We wouldn't go out and riot to get these guys out. They were put in prison. They were like,
well, I'm going to give you a gem about that. And that's not to absolve America.
Yeah, no, exactly. I'm not saying
but it's important where that came from, because there was this idea. I don't agree with it, but I'm saying that there was this idea that America operated according to some degree of war honor, some type of moral code of conduct when they conducted battle. Abu Ghraib, you know who brought those tactics in? Can we cue the every single time meme again?
I need to get like a bell or something.
Right?
For here. I think I need to do that. I need to get a bell. I'm going to get that next time. Just a bell I can jing. Oh, my God. Are you serious?
Yeah. So the Deputy Secretary of Defense, and And for the record, you know, a lot of people always talk about Rumsfeld, as they should. Vile creature, vile devil, vile Shabbos Goy, terrible person. But Donald Rumsfeld's entire career, it was bankrolled by Cerberus Investments. And at the heart of Cerberus Investments were a gang of Jewish billionaires led by Michael Steinhardt. And Michael Steinhardt was at the time at least, arguably the biggest funder of Birthright, you know, which takes young Jews,
sends them out there to try to like show them a great time, bring them around. Look how great Israel is, and try to sell it. So they'll push for the Zionist stuff.
Exactly. And Steinhardt, coincidentally enough, is also a primary funder of Chabad.
So they have lots of money coming in.
Lots of dough, all types of dough. But the undersecretary of Rumsfeld, who himself was a Jewish puppet, was none other than Paul Wolfowitz. And Paul Wolfowitz has a hideous career, if you go back in history. He was involved in the coup in Indonesia, which overthrew the Indonesian Islamic Socialist Revolutionary Sukarno. And Sukarno, rahmatullah alayh, who was a staunch anti-Zionist, was overthrown and replaced with the puppet dictator Suharto. Paul Wolfowitz was at the heart and the height of that. And it was Wolfowitz, my dear brother, along with this little gang, this ad hoc group within the Department of Defense. And there's an incredible book called The Transparent Cabal. Everyone needs to read this book. It discusses how the neocons, all of whom were Jews.
So they're all Jews.
All Jews, literally all Jews. Thomas Friedman, another Jew, the liberal Zionist columnist of the Jew York Times.
Jew York Times.
It's the Jew York Times.
That's accurate, kind of like YouTube.
He wrote an incredible piece, listen to the deception, called White Man's Burden.
That's what they do. They
White
say
man's
they're white, and then after they push white hatred, I'm Jewish.
And he talked about how if these people, these 25 Jewish neocons, weren't in the Bush regime, the Iraq War never would have happened.
So he blames it on white man?
And blames it on the white man. So Paul Wolfowitz, this demon, he has this group which is run by Richard Pearl, who's known within White House political circles as the Prince of Darkness.
Damn.
All right? Along with the Wormses, David and Menorah, a husband and wife parasite duo. And then Abram Shulsky, who actually headed up, along with Douglas Feith. Douglas Feith was so loyal to the cancer, he had a picture of Theodore Herzl hanging in his office. So it was this handful, this gaggle of Jews who brought in torture experts from Shin Bet, Mossad, and Amman, which is Israeli military intelligence. And these were the people that trained the forces that ultimately were to carry out the atrocities at Abu Ghraib. So again, it's not to absolve America, but to let everyone in the army know who's dictating your policy.
Yeah, they literally run around the Pentagon like bossing people around.
Yep.
They're also involved with the Mexican cartels, teaching them how to torture and
stuff.
stuff.
Of course. And I mean, again, this extends back to Harari and Panama. And that if you look at all of your various despotic regimes in Latin America, the Israelis have always had relationships with them. I'm talking about from Mexico all the way down to the tip of Argentina. And speaking of Argentina, which I know you mentioned earlier with Milei.
Yeah, I don't know if he's officially is, but he's obviously part of Chabad. I think he tries claiming like, I'll convert to Judaism after my thing, but he has a personal rabbi that travels with him. He has
from Chabad.
Yeah, from Chabad. He goes out there and visits. He went and cried in Israel at the wall.
Yep. Another wall toucher.
Yeah, he's
another wall toucher.
Bawling. And it's been an anti-Semitic conspiracy theory for decades in Argentina that they're trying to steal part of the land in the Patagonia area, correct?
Oh, exactly. And
didn't he just like approve Israelis? They're burning it. They burned down the land. They allow them to buy it now at like cents on the dollars.
And listen, this isn't just happening in Argentina. I mean, it's happening in Cyprus as well.
Yeah, what's that? I've heard Cyprus, but I don't know the details behind one.
Yeah,
and
Cyprus,
Ukraine, I believe. But tell me about Cyprus.
Yeah, Cyprus. Cyprus, obviously, very strategic point on the map. British bases there, which are used to bomb Iraq, and currently they're being used to bomb Iran.
Yeah.
And the Israelis, and for the record, Cyprus has been a transit point for a lot of these Russian Jewish oligarchs for years. Cyprus even has a connection to what happened in Beirut, the port explosion 6 years ago.
6 years. Which one was that? I was thinking there was a longer ago. There was one that supposedly the Israelis knew about when we got bombed.
No. Well, that was
That was a long time ago.
Yeah, that was 83. That was the Marine Barracks.
That's one. But anyways, what's the current one you're talking about? That's a whole separate subject.
There was this. It was just an ungodly thing that happened in Beirut, right on the port, where it killed and maimed thousands of people, and it damaged Beirut for years. And to this day, Beirut has never really recovered from it, and it was blamed on Hezbollah.
But it was too big of an explosion, right?
Way too big. They accused Hezbollah of having weapons at the port, which is something that they've accused them for years, that they got arms at the airport, that they got arms at the port itself. Total bullshit. Turns out that the tanker that brought this, it was ammonium nitrate, and it was Hezbollah's opponents in the Lebanese regime that they were supposed to get rid of this because of the dangers of it. I mean, you light a match, you light a firework.
Gigantic explosion.
Exactly. Right? But they didn't do it. And my take personally has always been they didn't dispose of it because the Jews told them not to dispose of it.
Use it to blow up and blame it on Hezbollah.
Exactly.
Seems likely. Like you said, a lot of some of these things might not be 100% about, but you start seeing
it's pattern
these patterns.
recognition, of course. And it was brought through by a Russian, Israeli, Cypriot businessman. Everyone can look this up. It's on an, if memory serves me correctly, it's on an old article from Reuters. Right? It was reported on The Wire. You never saw the story again, but if you look for it, you'll find it.
It'll pop up once and it buries it. They do that with a lot of these stories. It'll
a
pop
lot
up
of them.
Once and then it gets buried.
Yeah, or they might.
When Parliament was invaded in Mexico, when they came in right after 9/11, they got caught Mossad agents trying to kill a bunch of. They had Pakistani passports. They were trying to kill a bunch of people there. Huge news, then just buried, and then they get shipped back to Israel. Stuff like that. It's
That's
just
it.
It's just crazy how this stuff just disappears.
Yeah, and I would say that what you see happening now in Argentina, in Cyprus, and I'd also say Ukraine.
Yeah,
a lot of
he
you
says it wants it to be a big Israel. That's literally what Zelensky said that.
Literally, and Zelensky again, very tight relationship with Chabad. So you got
all of them. Huh?
So think about that.
They're the ones pulling all the strings.
All of them. So you have Chabad running the synagogues in Ukraine, and you have Chabad running the leader in Ukraine. Now you cross over the border into Russia. The chief rabbi, who we were talking about a little earlier, Berel Lazar, he's the chief rabbi of Russia, and he admitted in a video several years ago that all of Russia's Middle East decisions, quote-unquote Middle East decisions, they are first run through him and coordinated with Israel.
So that's why Russia didn't really help Iran in the war.
I'll do you one better, my dear brother. At the height of the war in Syria, you had multiple IRGC, Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps commanders, saying that Russia allowed or even gave coordinates to Israel to assassinate Iranian and Hezbollah commanders.
Yeah, because I thought Russia was going to come and help during the war, and they didn't.
They didn't. And you know what was interesting is that at the height of the war in Syria, there was a high-level diplomatic battle going back and forth. Haj Qasem Soleimani, who destroyed and eliminated ISIS and was central to getting guns to the Palestinian resistance and the Lebanese Islamic resistance for decades, he lobbied Putin to help him into the war with Syria. He convinced Putin that this was in Russia's interest because so many of these terrorists, they're from Dagestan.
Yeah, and
Chechnya. That's right. And Putin went in. And when Putin went in, it was a very rare moment. But Berel Lazar, he openly criticized Vladimir Putin, saying it was a mistake. Now, years later, when the liberation of Halab or Aleppo happened, you started to see Russia rolling back its forces as Putin got closer to Lazar. And then Rabbi Yehuda Krinsky, who is currently the head of Chabad. He's the
guy running it now.
He's the cat running it now. And he was the successor to the demon, Menachem Mendel Schneerson, which, as you know, Trump visited his grave.
He was extremely powerful.
Very powerful. He had ties to 6 Israeli prime ministers, multiple heads of Mossad, multiple war ministers. And
the
then
head of England, I think, went and seen him. There's a huge
Oh,
list.
yeah.
You can look it up. There's people put it in to see the list of people that have visited this place. It's crazy. I remember I put it in one time looking for the name of world leaders, and it just goes on and on. I'm like, damn.
and it makes you wonder why.
Yeah, exactly.
right?
Why? It doesn't make any sense.
Not at all, unless you understand the Jewish power configuration, and at the very beating, or maybe not so beating, more like blackened, deadened heart of it is Chabad. So Yehuda Krinsky, he openly admits that Vladimir Putin, he saw himself as a Shabbos Goy
Yeah.
in his St. Petersburg neighborhood when he was a kid, because he grew up around a bunch of Yehud. And also, he viewed himself as a Chabadnik.
Putin did.
Putin did.
Wow.
So this is from Yehuda Krinsky's mouth. Now, granted,
Yeah.
the Jews like to brag about their
Yes, we don't know
power.
exactly what's true. Well, like Netanyahu, he likes to rub in that he controls Trump, like just today, talking about how, he has to answer to me. It makes him pull his chair out. So you never know what's true, but they definitely do have power with Putin. How much, I don't
course.
know, but they, like I said, he fired one of his head guys for criticizing this organization.
Well, just think of it this way. When it's all said and done, the Jews are fundamentally anti-Russian. This is obviously a far bigger discussion for another time, but the Yehud were at the heart of the Bolshevik Revolution. And the Yehud were at the heart of crafting the Soviet Union into what it is, all the way up to including Stalin's death. Stalin had conflict with the Jews at the end of his life. It was called the Doctor's Plot. Everyone can look that up.
Yeah, I've heard that.
Right? And then Putin's mentor within the Soviet Union, he was only the premier for a couple of years before he mysteriously died. His real name was Fleckenstein. Everyone look that up. Putin
Fleckenstein,
and
huh?
Fleckenstein. Everyone go ahead and do the math on that one. So Putin has been around these people for his whole life.
Yeah.
And you have to ask yourself, even if you're a person in power, there has to be some
He
degree.
has to deal with them in some ways. And
Right?
He's at odds with them, but he's still obviously not fully at odds with them. And it's like how much control they have on him. I don't know the answer to that, but there's obviously some.
So then when you think about how the war in Syria went, where Bashar al-Assad ultimately was betrayed by Russia. He was sold down the river to the wolves. And we have this coup with a former leader of Jabhat al-Nusra, which was Al-Qaeda, literally Al-Qaeda.
Yeah. And we helped them get into power.
And that disgusting collaborator was recently here at the White House, and he was recently at 10 Downing Street in London.
Hanging out with Trump in these places after, supposedly these were enemies, and it just switches up because Israel tells us that's who they want.
And he killed tens of thousands of people in Syria, including Christians, for the record.
Yeah.
And Iraq as well, he was responsible for. And after this coup, this horrific coup that undid all of the sacrifices that the resistance axis made, and the victory that was secured not just for our people, but for the whole world, dumping this, what we call the Takfiri terrorist virus. Immediately after that, because they were disarming the Syrian army, right? And they were making sure that even local militias, they didn't have any guns either. The Israelis moved right in to start building settlements in the occupied Golan Heights.
Yeah, they're obviously trying to do Greater Israel. They say that's look at Lebanon right now. Just, I think it was the day or yesterday, Apple Maps took off the names of all the villages. That pisses me off. Like, who the fuck are these people at Apple Maps that think they could just take it off, and they're saying, basically saying it's Israel's land?
Yeah, it's true, Ach, and it's gut-wrenching because you're talking about not just decades or even a couple hundred, you're talking about thousands of years of human history. I mean, the south of Lebanon, this is where Jesus Christ, alayhi salatu wasalam, walked. This is where Jesus' ministry was. They're wiping that from the
This
map.
isn't some backwards place. These are like, our media makes it sound like these Muslims are these backwards places, but these are like civilized people that aren't that different from us at all.
Of course, Ach, and I mean, I don't like to use this term personally because it's...
I get it because then it makes other people less, but I guess...
No, I get what you mean.
They could relate a lot, they're not that different from white Americans, look-wise, culture-wise.
They're not. They're not. And again, it's not to use colonialist terminology, but there was a time where Lebanon was known as the Paris of the Middle East or the Paris of the Levant.
Yeah.
So there was, and you did see this common cultural exchange. You're talking poets, writers, various kinds of authors, journalists, intellectuals of all sorts. And now the Israelis are moving in. For the record, they're being ferociously resisted by Hezbollah.
Taking out tons of tanks
and tons of occupiers on top of it that the Israelis aren't admitting. But yeah, I mean, that is the goal. And at the heart of the expansionism in Lebanon and the expansionism in Syria is none other than Chabad.
It was interesting. I think it was like 2 weeks ago I was chatting with Grok and it was being super honest about all the stuff because occasionally it'll like break through and I go, what was the real reason we're going to war with Iran? It's like Chabad made Trump do it. I was just like, wait, what? And then it kind of like backtracked a little bit, but every now and again I'll just give you a moment of truth. That's why I'm going to hit you up like, oh, let's do something on Chabad.
It had to be done because, I mean, Chabad is at the heart of and you know what? It's not just Lebanon and Syria on this very note. It's in Gaza as well.
They're in Gaza?
They're in Gaza as well.
Jesus.
If everyone...
Why would they allow them to be in Gaza?
Well, listen, you put in Gaza, Chabad. I want everyone to do this. Put in Gaza, Chabad on whatever search engine that you use. And that same vomit-inducing dark gray steel menorah that you find on the White House lawn, these Devilbergs erected this in Gaza, and they said, there was a banner on like a kind of military encampment, which goes back to Rabbi Jacob Yisrael Herzog, who was traipsing around Iran on his American passport. And he is a rabbi within the IOF. So no one think that these are just clerics. No one think that these are just quote unquote religious men. There's an interconnectedness between
the army and them.
Between the army and the rabbinate, absolutely. The occupation, and in fact, I just saw a photo today of some despicable IOF terrorist carrying a gigantic Torah scroll into Lebanon. Imagine that. So, led by Rabbi Herzog, IOF started planting these menorahs with Chabad all over the borderlines with Gaza. And there were banners on the military encampments that read, Chabad Gaza coming soon.
Yeah.
All right? So everywhere you look throughout the world, I mean, I remember the false flag attack in Mumbai, which goes back to what we were talking about, that they don't have a problem allegedly killing their own if they have to. There was an attack in Mumbai in 2008. It was November 26th of 2008. This huge false flag attack that gave the Hindutvari regime in India what they needed to carry out an expansion in occupied Kashmir. And at the heart of that was an Israeli terrorist by the name of Eli Katzia, who was also connected to Chabad. Right? And there were allegedly a couple of Chabadnik Jews at this synagogue in the middle of Mumbai who were killed. But they used that to expand their infrastructure in Southeast Asia.
Yeah, they'll sacrifice their own, just like in Australia. I think that was probably a false flag. You know what I'm talking about?
Definitely.
The issue they just had.
Oh,
there
yeah.
was a guy who was clearly, he's literally the guy defending Netanyahu in his criminal trial.
Yep.
I think he's like the Mossad guy. He takes a picture of himself with like blood on his head. Like, Jews are under, give me a fucking break. You're taking a selfie in the middle of a shooting?
It looked like a Hollywood
You imagine you're in the
production.
middle of a mass shooting and you take a selfie.
I mean...
Let me Instagram this real quick.
I mean, it would be peak dystopia, no doubt. But to me, it felt totally staged.
Yeah, it seemed like I said,
staged.
again, that's just me speculating, but it seemed like it was a false
I
flag.
I agree
And
entirely.
they use that to pass these laws that make anti-Semitism illegal. They also had all these synagogues that were being attacked.
Yep.
They said, oh, it was organized crime being paid by a foreign influence. Obviously, Israel.
Yeah, of course. Which, again, if we swing it back around to Chabad, they do have mafia ties. Something else I want everyone to look up is take a look at Chabad and ecstasy trade or ecstasy pills. The biggest ecstasy traders in the world going back 10, 15, 20 years ago, they were all connected to
Are
Chabad.
these the ones that had the DEA's phones tapped? 'Cause I know some Israeli mob that were doing drugs. They were tapping the police department's phones. It's probably these guys.
Yeah, absolutely.
So they would know what they were doing because they had all the phone lines tapped.
And when these gangsters got caught, it was Chabad that came to their aid.
So they probably don't even get hardly any trouble. Kind of like all the, they're making like the Somali fraud. Of course, that's bad. But the big fraud was like a lot of the Jew healthcare fraud and all this. And Trump pardons all these guys.
I mean, Achi, look at just what's happened in the last couple. You probably saw this video. It went viral. I don't know if it was in Crown Heights or in Bed-Stuy, but there was this small hat.
Mm-hmm.
He's in a black neighborhood, all right? He comes up to the building and he says, I got a court order. I got a court order.
Oh, I saw that recently, right? Just a couple weeks ago, right?
Yeah. And
trying to do what they do in Palestine, trying to steal
exactly
this guy's
like
house.
that.
It's like, get the fuck out of here.
And the cat from bro, we don't give a fuck about that hat. We'll knock that fucking hat off your head, dude.
Yeah. The shit don't work around here.
Well, there was, and his name slips my head because I just found out about it just a couple days ago and when I saw the video. But there was this Jewish attorney who ultimately was disbarred. Everyone can look this up. Taken on trial for running this exact scam.
Apparently, there's a whole like organization. They're trying to get these deeds, and they get people that aren't that smart.
Yeah.
Again, I haven't done any research in this, but someone was just telling me about how they're doing that to steal homes in New York.
So it's like everywhere you look where there's scamming, where there's human trafficking, where there's organ trafficking.
Yes, that's a big one. They
Huge
donated
thing.
the most organs of any country, I think, this last year. Obviously, from Palestinians. That's
Without
just like
question.
sick, stealing people's organs.
Without question. And again, it's you find them in Colombia doing
The
this.
sex trafficking of children. That's
Yep.
usually all throughout Latin America. When you see all these busts in the news, it'll cover it, then they bury them.
Well, you know, it's interesting because at 770 Eastern Parkway in Brooklyn, the Chabad headquarters, the chief rabbi of that particular outpost, he was just accused of child rape
Jesus.
right before the scandal broke with the tunnels. And as you start to dig it all throughout New York, you find a ton of them.
That's what someone was telling me. There's tunnels all throughout those synagogues and stuff.
Oh, listen, Achi, I mean, again, I'll do you one better. You know where else there's tunnels? Moscow.
Really?
They are in Moscow. I did a piece on it a couple years ago. And the central synagogue in which they run under is a Chabad synagogue.
So tunnels under them. It's so bizarre.
Why would they have them?
I'm guessing some dark things.
Well, you know, they say it's because of the persecution and the anti-Semitism. But when you find high chairs and dirty mattresses,
It looks like blood and babies
and children's toys,
kind of like something they've been accused through all out history.
sacrificing children. You know, the blood libel ain't the blood libel, ladies and gentlemen.
You realize when I was first accused of blood libel, I'm like, oh, what's this? Looked it up, and I'm like, I wouldn't be using that term if I was them.
Well, that's what I mean.
I started going down that rabbit hole, being like, what the fuck? I'd never heard of that.
And it's crazy, Achi, because, you know, this is something that I tell people often when it comes to the Yehud. It's not like you find random accusations against the Yehud throughout history. It's always the same.
Yeah, there's convictions. If it was any other race, it would be like history would say this happened because there would be court convictions,
That's right.
executions.
But not with these people. Not with these people. And you fast forward to today, and Chabad is arguably the most powerful and the most influential Jewish sect. They're certainly responsible for reviving Jewish communal and Jewish religious life. And they're connected to all types of celebrities, and they're connected to all types of groups, including, as noted, in Iran. And I know we're running a little bit late here, so I'll kind of.
I have a few more things I want to ask before
All
we
right,
wrap.
all right, good.
I got like 15 more minutes.
All right, excellent.
I do want to ask a few. Like, do you think they have connections to like Hollywood and the music industry?
Oh, of course, of course. I mean, there's roughly dozens of execs, and I could say right off the rip, you know, Arnon Milchan. Who was connected to the JFK assassination.
Oh yeah, and then he the guy that made the movie, kind of diverting
JFK?
it,
Right?
to show like, oh, they make these movies, they'll control the conspiracy theories to put you the wrong direction.
Yep.
There was another guy that did this, who was in Epstein files. Who was it? He was the one writing about the Shadow Commission to Ghislaine Maxwell. I can't remember his name. He was writing conspiracy books to get people off track of the Jews.
Well, yeah, I mean that tends to be. It tends to be their central function.
There's going to be conspiracies when things are off, so they try to take it and
obfuscate,
turn it their direction,
misdirect. Yeah, exactly. And Arnon Milchan, you find him commonly at Chabad events all over Hollywood. And Arnon Milchan was also part of an Israeli intelligence agency called Lakam. And Lakam was this science-focused clandestine group that was at the heart of stealing nuclear material from this country.
I think Netanyahu might have been involved with that with him,
Netanyahu
right?
was absolutely part of it. Netanyahu was linked to the theft of nuclear triggers, which help you detonate nuclear
That's
weapons.
insane. And like, they come, then he can come and give a speech in Congress and get the most standing ovations of anyone.
Yep.
I think like 56, they're clapping like sills for this war criminal.
Yep.
It's disgusting, vile. Another person that doesn't make sense, Rabbi Shmuley. He's this incompetent moron, but yet all the world leaders come to him. He's obviously like this mob figure, but just complete moron.
Well, interesting fact about Rabbi Shmuley, who was at the heart of ripping off and mentally raping Michael Jackson, God rest his soul.
Exactly.
Right?
They completely manipulated his story.
Lied about him, and everything connected to MJ was just utterly Jewish from point A to point B. First accuser was a Yid. One of his sisters, right, married to a Yid who beat the living daylights out of her.
Yeah, she said later that he beat her to make her say her brother molested children. Isn't that sick?
Sick.
I mean, she should have left. Guy say that about her own. Falsely accused her brother of that. I wouldn't forgive her for that. But still, that's still sick that he did that. Absolutely
sick. And Shmuley, unbeknownst to many, is actually Iranian.
Really?
He's Iranian. So
he's not Ashkenazi. Interesting.
Yep. So one of the most vocal warmongers in the entire country campaigning for the mass murder of innocent Iranian civilians has been this devil. And again, you see this full circle development in which you have a lot of powerful Iranian Jews. Another family that everyone should look up is the Ghraib family. They got real estate in New York and in LA. And they use this money to fund a lot of these demented rallies that you see all over America, all over London, where they're chanting for the death of Imam Khomeini, may Allah rest his soul, and outright war, mass murder of Iranians. And that too ultimately ties back to Iran, to Chabad, excuse me. So right smack dab in the middle of the most resistant country on earth, the most anti-Zionist country on earth other than Yemen.
Allow them to be there still.
You have a Chabadnik rabbi. But this is the devilry of it. This is the devilry of it all. And to me, it's not just about Chabad, but it's about the Yahud in general and how the Yahud interface with Gentiledom. This individual, Rabbi Yehuda Garami, and his deputy, Rabbi Laleh, who has been all over TV. You've probably seen him on X and other social media. You know, he was kind of looking off into the distance in the ashes of the synagogue. But the way I took it is kind of closing the loop. Just forgive me and bear with me.
No worries.
And the Jews were supposed to be there for Passover. So the war started on Purim, and the war ended on Passover. Think of how Jewish that is, right? And these Jews are supposed to be in their synagogue praying. Nobody was there.
So they knew it was going to happen, so they missed it.
So think about it.
Someone tipped them off.
Thank you.
They wanted to play the victim.
Thank you.
Synagogue. They get money really easy to redo a synagogue.
Absolutely. And it was just like 9/11. 4,000 Israelis don't show up because they got text messages from Otago, Mossad connected Otago on the day. Well, these Jews don't show up in the middle of one of their holiest.
That makes no sense.
It doesn't. I mean, and the Jews are killing Christians, right? Everyone should know that. The Jews have killed Christians in Iran. The Jews are killing Muslims en masse, both the Shia majority and Sunnis. No warnings given, but these Jews right in the heart of Tehran, not even one casualty, not even a little boo-boo on the hand? No Jews, no Jews. Okay.
That's interesting. They play the Sunnis and Shiites against each other, I've noticed.
They do.
That's like black versus white, Christian versus Muslim. It's like they're playing.
Wherever there's a pressure point where the Jews can push.
Against each other.
They do. So now Laleh, this rabbi, is being looked at as a hero, even though he was educated in an institution called the Israelite Alliance, which was founded by a handful of supremacist Jews led by the French Jew Adolphe Crémeau some 150 years ago. And Adolphe Crémeau was instrumental in the colonization of Algeria. When the French were done in Algeria, or at least their operations were winding down, he then transitioned into Jewish affairs in France, and that's where this organization came from. And they were responsible for imparting and intensifying Zionism in Iran. So Laleh had his education here, all right? So he's no anti-Zionist either. Yeah. And now his boss, Yehuda Garami, look at how the Jews work. Look at how the Jews behave. he is saying in Iran, after the murder of Haj Qasem Soleimani, he talks about how Haj Qasem was a patriot, he was a hero, we love him, blah, 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 yada, 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 Jew, 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 right? Then this individual, Yehuda Garami, who was trained in the usurping Zionist entity, everyone can look it up themselves. I want you to tell me why the chief rabbi of Iran was trained by the enemy of Iran, right?
It doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't.
I don't know why they would allow that in their country.
Well, that's a bit of a different story, but this individual, later on, he goes to America right after the death, the murder of Haj Qasem. And he's doing a tour, my dear brother, of Chabad synagogues all up and down the East Coast.
They're all over the place, huh?
And they are. So he does this discussion, and he tells Chabad, first and foremost, the reason why he said those things about Haj Qasem Soleimani is because he was worried about the Jewish community. So he didn't mean them.
Yeah.
He did it only for the benefit of the tribe.
Just for trickery, yeah.
And then the second thing, which is even worse.
He's saying this around probably only Jewish people.
Only Chabadniks, my dear brother. So not just Jews, but Chabadnik Jews.
No one's going to see this stuff, yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly it. He's thinking no Gentile's going to look at this because of the Zionism isn't Judaism scam, right?
And very few did.
Very few did.
People, you know?
Even today, me personally, outside of Yemen, and I think Yemen understands the problem better than any other country, any other group of people on earth. May Allah bless Yemen. But I feel like your folks, I feel the white folks generally understand the Jewish problem infinitely more so than Muslims.
Interesting.
Unfortunately. And even though it's right there in the Quran.
I've been disappointed by some of these people, how they're letting them, looking in the Middle East, how they're letting them play them. It's been pretty disappointing seeing like, dude, now's your time. And they're just, so many of these countries are helping America.
Yeah, for sure.
And Israel, really, but America's, we're being their bitch.
Well, of course. So in front of this gigantic crowd of Chabadniks, Garami proclaims himself to be an admirer of Menachem Mendel Schneerson, the same person who has repeated for the last 30, 40, 50 years that Gentiles and Jews are two different species and that our souls come from the satanic realm.
Literally, you can look this up. That's what they say.
Literally that. And he says, I am a shliach of the Rebbe. And shliach is a word that means emissary. So he's an emissary.
They act like they're reborn, right? They did that too back in the like the Frankists, how do you say his name? Is that like these old
Shabbatai
like these organizations, it's a whole separate topic we can get into another time, but it's like completely satanic. Sounds like pretty similar to these organizations.
Well, that's exactly it, Achi. I mean, there is a Jewish concept which a lot of people are unaware of about reincarnation. It's called Gilgal. Yeah. And Gilgal stipulates that Jews are going to be reincarnated as Jews.
Yeah, I forget which guy he said he was reincarnated as the other guy, right? They believed in things like raping your own daughter, like like he pushed this, like literally.
Yeah, and you swing it all around, and you see that wherever you look, you find the same filth, the same degeneracy, and no matter whether they identify as Zionist or anti-Zionist or Hasidic or non-Hasidic or Ashkenazi or Mizrahi, and all these different terms, a Jew is a Jew. A Jew following Judaism, any incarnation of it is a Jew.
So the heart of the religion is the problem. It's not just like an offshoot. It's not like
it's not absolutely, because even you mentioned the rape of your own daughter. Where does that come from? It comes from Lot, who Muslims call Lut, and who we consider a prophet of Islam. Within the original Jewish text, they say that Lot had sex with his own daughters.
And that's okay, huh? That's disgusting.
And that's okay. Not only do they believe that,
it's like their morals are inverted. So
totally inverted.
Like, they say we have the world's most moral army. By their morals,
flip it.
Yeah, if it's backwards,
just
they
flip
can accept
turn it backwards. Exactly. And they not only do they believe this story, but they think that the bloodline of their Messiah, this warlord tyrant that's going to come in at the end of the day.
Yeah, they're trying to bring him back, and Christian Zionists are trying to help bring back the Antichrist. They're trying to bring back.
I mean, this is another passage I know off the top of my head. Shabbat 32b6 in the Babylonian Talmud. Everyone look it up. Shabbat 32b6, where the Jews talk about how when their warlord tyrant Mashiach is here, every Jew, and you said this on the last program, you don't want to be the slave of a Jew, and it's so true. But this is what they believe.
Yeah, this is...
They believe that every Jew is going to get 2,800 Gentile slaves.
And you can find them saying it in their own words. That's
in their own words.
When I first started seeing this shit, I'm like, this can't be real. And you started looking like, wait, they are saying it. And we just kind of be like, imagine if I was saying I'm going to have 28 Jewish slaves.
2,800?
Yeah, 2,800. Not 28. Yeah, it's just like... Well, that gets into slave rape. That's a whole different topic.
Right.
I want to hit a couple more things before we wrap just real quick.
Yeah, hit me.
Wow.
Hit me.
This is back to Michael Jackson. He wrote a song
dedicated
to the Palestinian
us.
people. Well, that one too, but he also
the poem.
They wouldn't let him release
That's right.
And then someone, I think it was a Jewish guy, bought the lyrics and never.
Well, you know what else? If you listen to Earth Song, his famous song Earth Song, you listen to the end when he's just kind of crooning and harmonizing, you hear him shout out Palestine.
Yeah, because he knew that they had suffered, and he was the most powerful, artist, and that's why they took him down.
Well, it's funny, Achi, because you find this is a constant where the Jews they move towards talented artists, specifically black artists, but all artists really.
Yeah, all artists, but the black artists are really infiltrated.
And there's this demonic Jew by the name of Robert X. Silliman, and this is relevant because the name of this show is Fight Back.
Yeah.
And you're a former 5-time world champion. I'm a big boxing head. But the name and likeness, now think about this.
Yeah.
The name and likeness. So everything you are.
So they'll own your likeness, right? They'll own your name.
You're Jake Shields.
So I can't even market
right?
myself.
This is
so
yours.
I can't go do this if they own that. Like
exactly.
They own you. That's what they do. That's why Prince changed his name to a symbol, because they owned his name.
And he also died under very mysterious
they probably killed him
circumstances.
too.
Without question.
Because that's what I realized. Oh, it was his Jewish record labels. They were treating him like a slave. I think that's why he had slave put across his head and changed his name.
I'll die on that hill that they murdered him. But this Jew that I'm talking about, his name is Robert F.X. Silliman. Everyone look him up too. This demon owned the name and likeness of Muhammad Ali, the greatest fighter in boxing history. Yeah. He owned his name and likeness.
Owned his... how can you own someone's name and likeness? That you can't make any money,
So from MJ to Muhammad Ali to Prince to many an artist throughout hip-hop, you find these Jewish execs, Jewish managers, publicists,
all the
middlemen.
All that. They're controlling it all. You hear all these hip-hop songs like NWA, Jay-Z is tied into them, Diddy, all their labels.
I mean, you know that Jay, this is of special interest to me because I'm from Brooklyn. And you're talking about he sold his entire community. Now, I mean, we could have an argument another time about the nature of the lyrics. That's a different story. It's tied in, but it's still a different story. But when he bought into the Brooklyn Nets, you know how many businesses that destroyed are? You're talking about native Italian, Jamaican, Arab, Puerto Rican businesses that were there for decades. You're talking cornerstones of the community that were destroyed by the Brooklyn Nets project.
Yeah.
And it was controlled by Mikhail Prokhorov, Russian Jew, and later on, Jay went into business for his Rock Nation Sports with the Newmarks, and the Newmarks, of course, also Jews, and they were at the heart of the Barclays Center.
Yeah, they controlled the whole basketball industry. That's why these guys, who was the guy who had to go to Paul? He had to give $500,000 and apologize to a bunch of
Kyrie
rabbis.
Irving.
Yeah, just for simply saying, read a book or something. Can you imagine? You have to go bow. And they never forgive you either, kind of like Kanye. He just went and begged on his knees, and they're just like, yeah, you still can't perform.
Still.
They just want you to humiliate yourself.
I mean, we just saw that what happened in London. I mean, and again, funnily enough, they would welcome someone like, we call him Giuliani.
Yeah, he can come in there after he's killed tens of thousands of people, but Kanye can't.
Kanye can't?
Because he wrote a song.
For a joint?
Yeah.
For a joint. It's mental. But this is the censorship that we've been...
Jewish supremacy. They look at us, they're better than us, we're not equals. And it's a good example. You say you're from Brooklyn. This goes back to Chabad. It's that case from the 80s where the guy was in the motorcade, a drunk Jewish guy, ran a red light, killed a 7-year-old child.
Gavin Cato. Everyone looked this case up. Gavin Hayden. This was in Crown Heights. You know, it's unfortunate because when people think of Brooklyn now, like people within our ranks, the first thing they think is the Jews.
But there's good parts.
It's not just the Jews, fam. There's a lot of good people in Brooklyn. But
they do have the power, though. This guy drunk, runs red light. 2 ambulances come.
Now, what's mental is that Rabbi Menachem Mendel Schneerson, he was in the motorcade. Right?
Yeah, it was his motorcade.
It was his motorcade. They run over this 7-year-old boy, and they let him die. They had ambulances on scene, but this is the kicker.
They weren't for the Goyim.
They weren't regular. It was their own ambulance service. Now imagine, can you imagine Muslims with all the stigma that has surrounded, and especially Shia within this last couple years with the conflict with Iran, Hezbollah, and Ansarullah in Yemen, the stigma surrounding Shia especially. Can you imagine if I decided tomorrow, me specifically, I decided to found an organization and all my brethren are armed to the teeth and we're only going to take care of Muslims? Can you imagine the uproar?
Yeah, it's insane that we're not going to put Goyim in our ambulances, especially in that case when he's the one that hit the kid. He wasn't even injured bad. He had a couple scratches. They let the kid, he was still alive when the ambulances came.
That's right.
But they let him bleed out and die, a 7-year-old child. And rightfully the people rioted.
Yeah, Crown Heights.
People were pissed off.
And you know what was arguably the most enraging thing of all is that that in the aftermath, the entire New York regime, or what we should call the New York
They tried
Zog,
covering it up, huh?
They tried to cover it up, and they also accused the people of Crown Heights of anti-Semitism.
Oh my God! Oh, you don't want us to kill your children,
right?
Like, how are you going to let a 7-year-old bleed out when they even had an extra ambulance there? But no, Goyim can't get in this ambulance. You're just like a dog.
And everyone should look at this in the greater context, you know, where this was the culmination of this Jewish supremacy that we keep on talking about, this Jewish power that they wield over every aspect of New York, political, economic, social as well. But this has been going on in Bed-Stuy, Crown Heights, Red Hook, Flatbush, Canarsie, forever, where these Jews, they flex this power and they lord over the community. And people have very little rights, very little rights. You're talking your heating doesn't get fixed, your air conditioning doesn't get fixed in the summertime. These Jews do not pay.
Well, I looked at a list of like the 50 worst landlords in
100.
New York.
I saw this too.
I think it was all of them, or 99. It might have been 100. I think it was all 100 actually.
It was. I'd probably say it looked to me like at least was what was discernible. It was about 80%.
Okay.
About 80%. And it makes you wonder because you can't do business you can't do real estate business in New York.
That's what Trump, he was in that business, so he had to be part of it. That's when you realize, like, oh, he was in this. And a lot of times they run the Section 8 housing, so it's the government's paying them the track. It's just slumlords.
Total slumlords. And you're talking about disease, you're talking about roaches, and then it's this vicious cycle because if you're from the projects and you try to go get a job in let's say a much better area, a decent area, they're looking at you like, oh, you're from there? We're not going to give you a job. So then what do cats end up getting into?
Drug dealing,
gun running, prostitution, and then all of that. Who are your suppliers? Jewish mob.
The mob.
Right? The quote-unquote Russian mob, it's the Jewish mob.
Bingo.
And they're based in New York. They're based out of Brighton Beach, right, and Sheepshead Bay. And all the synagogues, Brother Jake, in Brighton Beach and Sheepshead Bay.
Mob and it's
Chabad.
In Chabad, they're like,
Chabad.
that's what I realized, like, oh, their mob was looking, like I mentioned earlier, Rabbi Shmuley,
his
family had done like gun running.
Yeah, for the Israeli regime, it's true. Same thing with the Emanuel family. You know, Rahm Emanuel, Ari Emanuel.
You know he bought the UFC?
I do.
So the UFC is literally owned. His father was a literal terrorist.
I mean, it's unbelievable.
I don't get free tickets to the UFC anymore after I called
that
out. I called that out, then all of a sudden, that's UFC. I mean, whatever. It is what it is.
I'm sorry,
I can watch on TV. Truth is more important.
Yo, you got Jude. That's what happened. You got Jude.
Yeah, no, it used to be ran by the Italian mob. Now it's ran by the Jewish mob.
Well,
But the Italian mob guys were a lot cooler to me than the.
You know what?
I don't know if they were, but their family was an old mob.
No,
family.
you know what it is, that people can say what they want, but Italian mafia, they still live by some degree. Some degree of a moral code.
They had a lot more of a code than like Dana White and stuff. Those guys, I'm not going to say anything bad about the Fertitta brothers who owned it. They own Red Rock Casino. They own, again, they're probably not really a mob anymore.
They own
the
Zuffa
mob
too?
is kind of, yeah, well, they sold it.
They sold Zuffa to a manual.
But yeah, they always treated me good. They gave me some large bonuses. And then like Dana would try to take credit for them. It's like Rich Lorenzo called me and gave me that money. Because they do have kind of like that code where they want to be like, oh, you've been good to me here. We're going to give you this. And it does be like, but that can help when you need some fucking money and they give you a good chunk of money. Nothing to them, but it's still like, okay, at least he paid me far beyond my contract. Yeah, I don't think the UFC is doing that anymore. Because everyone's always like, the fighters are underpaid. It's true. But before, Lorenzo would take care of the people he liked, sometimes by a lot more than your contracts.
Yeah.
So the guys you like, the good team players, which again, that's kind of a manipulative manner because it makes you have to kind of play by the rules.
Yeah,
but
for sure.
Still, at least they would give you some extra fucking money.
Word. Not anymore.
No,
now the Jews
I don't
are
think
in
so.
control.
Not that I've heard of.
And the same thing
goes. It's such a big organization now. It brings in so much money. And don't get me wrong, they pay the top guys get some decent money, but it's still less than like the top boxers.
Yeah, sure. And I mean, then at the same time,
huge now.
Yeah, and boxing is the same thing. I mean, you know what's funny is that if you take a look at Bob Arum, who also, by the way, connected to Chabad, all right, and a number of other major Zionist organizations. Everyone can check it themselves. Bob Arum is handing over all kinds of dough to Jewish communal organizations all throughout the city.
Interesting. Like they almost have to run these businesses.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
And you take a look at all of your biggest superstars over the last, let's say, 20 years. Oscar De La Hoya, Floyd Mayweather, Manny Pacquiao, Miguel Cotto, and most recently, Terrence Bud Crawford, all left top rank in disgrace. And what did they accuse Bob Arum of? Jacking their dough.
Yeah. Just like King, the guy that Tyson that stole all of his money.
That's it.
Not surprising. There's still a ton we could talk about. We probably should wrap up soon and do another one, right? Because it's like there's still a bunch of angles I could go down.
Anything else you got on mind, Doc? Or we could wrap it up?
There's a lot I could hit, but I feel like it's like things that would take a while getting back into the history because I'm still curious more stuff. I feel like that's a long,
yeah, of course,
kind of how they got from like Palestine to the.
Well, I guess what I would say to wrap things up is that to bring it all full circle, as my mentor Michael Collins Piper, God rest his soul, used to say, is that Chabad, it came from satanic origins, as we've established, and everyone can look into
literal
satanic origins. The continuum between the Baal Shem Tov and the founder of Chabad, Shnoya Zalman of Liadi, is very, very short. You're not talking about 6 degrees of separation. It's like 1 to 1. So this entity that has satanic origins that continues to have, to this day, ties to criminal behavior and criminal activity, everything from human trafficking to drug trafficking.
Organ trafficking.
Organ trafficking. And they are connected to almost every major Western regime on planet Earth, and they have a presence in nearly every country on Earth where there's a synagogue. They're even buried, not so deeply, in the heart of where there is resistance against global Zionism and world Jewry. There is something to be said about their evil, and no one is talking about it because of fear. But no different than any other aspect of the Jewish octopus. If we bring this out into the light, they want you to be terrified.
People are speaking out more. They're still scared, though. A lot of people are still scared. I'm talking to some of these couple big name guys recently. We try to get Dan some podcasts. You realize, these guys tell me they agree with me, but they're still a little scared.
Well, so long as people are scared, this horrific situation, not only in our own country or our own homelands overseas, but all over the planet, everywhere. The whole planet is going to remain under the dominion of world Jewry. Chabad is a central tentacle of it. If we don't have the balls, frankly, to just say the truth. And that's what's so incredible. That's what's so incredible is that they fear being named more than anything.
Yeah, and I think we can look at Palestine to see what they're going to do to us if they get complete control.
That's it. Because, you could make the argument that it didn't begin in Palestine, even though Palestine happens to be where their central headquarters is today. That's all Israel is. It's just a criminal base.
Yeah.
It's just a safe haven for criminals.
That's what they want. Yeah, their base, because they're obviously, as the painter said, they're not all going to go live there. They need to live around the world because they can't create on their own. They have to suck off other economies. That's going to be their base where they go flee to get away from criminality.
That's right. And I mean, you see that all of the pedophiles go there. All of your gangsters go there. All of your arms traffickers go there. Mm-hmm. So they don't mind being called anything else. It's a famous quote from one of the Austrian painter's associates. You can call them rat, you can call them pest, you can call them demon, devil, but the moment you call them Jew, that's when they start to recoil.
Isn't that crazy? Like, I don't know if you saw the Dan Blazarian TMZ interview.
Yeah.
They were comparing calling Randy Fine a Jew to the same as calling someone an N-word. It's like, do you guys not see your own hypocrisy? That's literally...
I mean... Is he not a fat?
Like
is he not a fat Jew?
Yeah, they were offended that he called him a fat Jew.
I mean,
he's a fat Jew.
He's a fat Jew.
Exactly.
I mean, what do you want me?
Yeah, they call him the N-word. It's like, at least Dan called it out. It's like, just shows the ridiculousness of it.
It is, and they are no doubt extremely powerful. No doubt they are extremely dangerous. But at the same time, and this is the paradox of it all.
There's a lot more of us than them.
There's a lot more of us than them, and they're such cowards.
Yes, that's true.
You see them confront Hamas and Islamic Jihad and the rest of the Palestinian resistance in Gaza. You see them confront Hezbollah on the legendary battlefields of South Lebanon, and they get wrecked. Mm-hmm. That's why they would never bring you and me on in a debate.
They're like cowardly,
never.
They don't like to be, they don't like fighting. They don't like being confrontation. They don't like debate.
They don't.
They
Everything is by proxy.
Go after your money, go after assassinations.
They smear your character.
Yeah, but we're not going to allow that anymore. It's like their time's done.
Just name them.
We have to take this time and take the country back. Otherwise, it's never going to happen.
Name them and shame them, and you'll watch their power disintegrate.
They should be the ones ashamed, not us. They should be the ones shamed for what they're pushing.
We shouldn't be ashamed of these views because these views are the truth.
And I think it's breaking through now. Where can people find you, support you?
I appreciate it.
I appreciate it. I'll definitely have you again because there's still a ton I want to talk about, but we're at like 2 hours right now, which is usually I usually try to go like an hour and a half.
We just been yapping it up. Well, everybody could find me on Telegram at Revolution, exactly as it's spelled, Anti-Parasitica. That's ANTIPARASI.
They took your other Telegram down, you said?
Yeah, the other Telegram
was free speech.
It was Global Resistance News.
Make sure I follow you still. Yeah, but I still follow you.
Yeah, Revolution Anti-Parasitica. You can follow us there, and you're going to find analysis that you're not going to find anywhere else. And commentary, memes, lots of history about the region and our martyrs, our heroes. But most importantly, we focus on anti-parasitism and bringing Gentiles together to fight the Jews because we all have the same enemy, no matter what our differences are.
We can worry about those later.
Yeah, we can.
Like I had Io Kamati last time, black nationalist. But I don't care. You don't have to as long as he treats me with basic respect, I'm okay.
Vice versa.
We can worry about other issues later.
Yes, of course. All right.
Cool. Thank you so much.
It's been a pleasure. Cool.
Yeah, we'll do it again.
Absolutely.
As many of you know, I have many controversial guests, so that comes at a cost of being demonetized everywhere. So if you want to support the program, go to fightbackpodcast.com, and I have all kinds of merch on there, whether it's jiu-jitsu, fighting, political, and other accessories. And thanks for the support.